You practice immortality. I cultivate the land. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76, Red Zio's Attack on Pine Trees. In the small pavilion, Wang Chang'an introduced the identities of the two people to the red-clothed girl. This is fellow Daoist Ni Wen, the youngest son of the head of the Ni family, with outstanding talent, and it is very likely that he will become a fellow disciple of the three of us. This is. Soon, Wang Chang'an led the two to He Yuntang. This is fellow Daoist He Yuntang, the granddaughter of the foundation building cultivator Eden Xian Bei Ko Tang, who is in charge of the largest medicine hall in the market. She has good talent and is about to break through to the 7th level of key training. He said softly to the red-clothed girl. He Yuntang looked respectful and greeted in a low voice. In the market, she has a noble status, and many alchemists and spiritual plant masters in the Bei Ko Tang she is in charge of are respectful to her. She has been practicing superior skills since she was a child and has a steady supply of elixirs to increase her cultivation. She has a beautiful appearance, excellent ability and personality, and is very favored by the foundation building alchemist. But in front of the red-clothed girl, she still feels ashamed. Everything she was proud of on a daily basis was nothing compared to the girl in red in front of her. As far as she knew, the girl in red was 2 years younger than her, but she had already been a high-level key training cultivator at a very early age, with a cultivation level of the 9th level or perfect key training. You know, every time you upgrade your cultivation level, you need to use a lot of resources and time to accumulate. Many key training casual cultivators with ordinary qualifications have been stuck in the low and middle levels of key training throughout their lives, and can never reach the higher level of key training, let alone touch the threshold of foundation building. Not only in terms of cultivation, but also in appearance and background. The girl in red can also crush her. She sighed softly in her heart, talked and laughed, and tried to blend in with the crowd. I heard from junior brother Chang'an that Missy is from Bei Ko Tang. The girl in red came to her side at some point and asked curiously. Yes, senior sister Zhu. He Yuntang nodded slightly restrainedly. Your hall is good at alchemy, and grows many spiritual plants and herbs. I wonder if there are any spiritual fruits suitable for spiritual beasts to eat? I don't know much about it. He Yuntang hesitated. There are many kinds of spiritual plants in the medicine garden. I rarely go there on weekdays. I have to ask the spiritual plant master in the hall for details. Last time when I was chasing the traces of evil spirits in the market, I accidentally met a young man with the smell of some spiritual fruit. After asking, I learned that he was a spiritual plant master in Bei Ko Hall, so I came to ask Missy. The red-clothed girl smiled brightly. Young spiritual plant master? There are indeed a few young spiritual plant masters in the hall, but I still need to ask who they are. Somehow, the figure of Lu Xuan flashed in He Yuntang's mind. Lu Xuan's figure flashed and came to the bottom of the courtyard wall. On the bluestone courtyard wall, a strange monster was squatting at this moment. It was the four-eyed red goblin he had seen in the market before. I don't know how to find Lu Xuan. Inside the courtyard, the cloud-stepping lynx stared at the red goblin on the courtyard wall with its green pupils, and let out a low roar from time to time. In the grey-black grass tumors of the grass puppet, a few thin ropes made of grey grass twisted and swam like great snakes, as if as long as the red goblin invaded the spiritual field, it would immediately trap it. The red goblin did not react at all, squatting on the courtyard wall very obediently, staring at Lu Xuan with its 4 eyes. Lu Xuan was a little numb by its 4 strange eyes, and didn't know how to deal with it for a while. It takes a lot of spirit stones to maintain the 2nd grade fog hidden maze, so when Lu Xuan is at home during the day, he usually closes the formation, and then this strange spirit beast sneaks in. He scolded a few words, but the 4-eyed red goblin was unmoved, and Lu Xuan was helpless. The red goblin on the courtyard wall has an extraordinary origin. It is a spirit beast raised by the red-clothed girl from the sect. Lu Xuan is worried that, if he hurts it, it will cause unnecessary trouble. Of course, more importantly, the red goblin is quite magical, and can easily find and track evil figures. Lu Xuan feels that he may not be able to defeat it. Come down. Seeing that the four-eyed red goblin is well behaved and sensible, he hooked his finger at it. The red goblin grinned, and the ghost-like pattern on its face suddenly became vivid. It jumped in front of Lu Xuan and circled around him. The four pupils, 2 red and 2 white, were spinning around with an impatient look, which made the originally weird face form a strange sense of contrast. Do you want this? Lu Xuan took out a red cloud pine nut from the storage bag. The last time he met the four-eyed red goblin in the market, he guessed that it was probably the smell of red cloud pine nut that remained on his body that attracted the red goblin. As expected, the moment it saw the red cloud pine nuts, the 4 pupils of the red goblin lit up, and its 2 extremely long red arms folded together, holding the nuts in its palms, and kept making begging gestures. This red goblin is much more polite than the famous mountain monkeys I saw in my previous life. Lu Xuan sighed and threw the red cloud pine nuts in his hand to the four-eyed red goblin. The red goblin quickly caught it and couldn't wait to tear open the fish scale-like pine cone skin wrapped outside, revealing the crystal clear pine nuts inside. He stretched out his furry fingers to break off a pine nut and put it into his mouth. An extremely satisfied expression soon appeared on his face, as if he had tasted some delicious delicacy. Lu Xuan smiled and watched it eat one pine nut after another. You are so anxious to eat such delicious food, you should know that it is not easy to get it, right? When he had eaten almost half of it, he suddenly asked. The intelligence of the red demon was higher than he expected. When it heard Lu Xuan's question, it paused its movements, and a hint of intelligence flashed in its 4 pupils. It nodded quickly. I spent countless efforts and hardships to cultivate this high-quality red cloud pine nut. I wanted to sell it for a good price, but since I met you, it is fate to give it to you. But, you come from a sect, and your master is a child of destiny. You shouldn't eat my spiritual fruit for nothing, right? Lu Xuan said casually, while tossing a spiritual stone in his hand. The red demon tilted his head, and a hint of humanistic thinking flashed in his 2 pupils. Then he pointed at the spiritual stone in Lu Xuan's hand, roared to signal Lu Xuan to wait for a while, put down half of the red cloud pine nut in his hand, and fled quickly. In less than 2 minutes, it returned to Lu Xuan's courtyard with the girl in red. Dao, meet again. The girl in red smiled. My pet is rather naughty. It came to my house without telling me. Please forgive me if I disturbed you. On the way here, I had communicated with it and knew that it had taken a high quality spiritual fruit from you. It is not easy for you to grow spiritual plants. I will definitely give you enough compensation. The red-clothed girl's spiritual power passed over, and the remaining half of the red cloud pine nuts floated into her palm. It's a high-quality spiritual fruit. No wonder Kaiziro can't forget it. How about this? I will compensate you with a first-grade magic weapon and 3 PON pills. What do you think? Chapter 77, Spirit Seed Condensation Method. As expected of a sect disciple, you are generous. Hearing the compensation offered by the red-clothed girl, Lu Xuan secretly sighed in his heart. Although the red cloud pine nuts he gave to the four-eyed red demon were of superior quality, they were much more valuable than ordinary pine nuts. But no matter how high they were only first-grade spiritual plant materials, and their prices were cheaper than the first-grade magic tools and elixirs. Just exchanging 4 first-grade magic tools could earn a lot of spiritual stones, not to mention 3 first-grade PON pills. However, he had no interest in magic tools and elixirs. There were many first-grade and second-grade spiritual plants in the spiritual field. Any mature first-grade spiritual plant would not be less valuable than a first-grade magic tool. As for PON pills, he already had 2 bottles in his storage bag, so he was naturally not interested. Although the magic tools and elixirs compensated by DOI are expensive, they are not what I need at the moment. Lu Xuan declined. I don't like to practice, but I'm obsessed with cultivating spiritual plants. If you have suitable spiritual seeds, or the techniques and books for cultivating spiritual plants, that would be great. Spirit seeds. Techniques? The red-clothed girl lowered her head and thought. She usually only practiced the techniques and spells, and never got involved in spiritual plants. How could she have spiritual seeds on her? The techniques she practiced were mainly for killing, and she never thought of practicing low-level spells that could cultivate spiritual plants. Got it. She took out a dark yellow book from her storage bag. This book is Common Spiritual Plants and Their Treatment Methods. It records more than 100 kinds of low-grade spiritual plants commonly seen in the cultivation world, as well as the corresponding picking techniques and storage methods. I was afraid that I would miss some spiritual medicine, so I kept it in the storage bag. I didn't expect it to be useful today. The red-clothed girl stuck out her tongue a little embarrassedly, and seeing Lu Xuan's puzzled expression, she continued. It contains only some basic common sense, and does not involve any sect secrets. You can check it out without worry. Okay, thank you very much, fellow Daoist. Lu Xuan responded quickly. He was born as a casual cultivator, and had almost no foundation in spiritual plants. He could get to this point because of his control over the real-time status of spiritual plants in the spiritual field and the extra rewards of the white light ball. This spiritual plant book is only the most basic thing for sect cultivators, but it is particularly important to Lu Xuan, and it can make up for the lack of relevant knowledge. The value of the dark yellow book cannot be directly measured by spiritual stones, but one thing that is certain is that it is much greater than the red cloud pine nut that Lu Xuan took out. After Lu Xuan took the dark yellow book, the girl in red felt relieved. She glared at the four-eyed red goblin who sneaked out to ask for spiritual fruits. While chatting with Lu Xuan, she looked around. She was a little curious about Lu Xuan, who could grow high-quality red cloud pine nuts. A thick white fog spread over the spiritual field in the backyard, blocking the exploration of the red-clothed girl's spiritual consciousness. Dao Lu, your dense fog array is quite extraordinary. It can actually block my spiritual sense. She casually scanned the mist-hidden maze and retracted her spiritual sense. After all, the owner of the spiritual field, Lu Xuan, was right in front of her, so she couldn't be too polite. I can't help it. My own cultivation is ordinary, and all my wealth is in the spiritual field. In order to protect my family business, I had to buy this second-grade defense array. Besides, the outbreak of evil spirits in the market some time ago was also a major reason why I had to buy it. Lu Xuan said lightly. The market is like this. The safety of cultivators is not well guaranteed. But Dao Lu has the means to cultivate spiritual plants, so maybe you can try to enter the sect. The sect can provide you with an environment where you can plant with peace of mind, with a wide variety of spiritual seeds and spiritual veins with rich spiritual energy. Those large sects that rank at the top even have blessed lands, which are very suitable for spiritual plant masters like Dao Lu. I'm just a casual cultivator with ordinary qualifications. How could a sect take me in? Lu Xuan said self-deprecatingly. He couldn't help but be fascinated by what the red-clothed girl said. There were only a few foundation building cultivators in Linyang market, and growing a third-grade spiritual plant was almost Lu Xuan's limit. With conventional means, he estimated that he could only grow the King Neo spiritual tea provided by Bei Ko Tang, and he would need to find higher grade spiritual seeds by himself. Only in the sect could one have the opportunity to obtain rare spiritual seeds and grow higher grade spiritual plants. He took the opportunity to ask the red-clothed girl about how to join the sect. After a conversation, the red-clothed girl left with the satisfied four-eyed red goblin. Lu Xuan did not take out the remaining 4 red cloud pine nuts in his storage bag. The girl did not have what he wanted, so he planned to wait for a price to see if he could get them later. After putting the dark yellow book into the storage bag, Lu Xuan inspected the spiritual field and carefully cultivated the spiritual plants. Lu boy, are you home? Outside the courtyard gate, the loud voice of manager he suddenly came. I'm coming. What wind blew you here? Lu Xuan smiled and replied loudly, and hurried forward to open the door, and the thin old man entered the courtyard. What surprised Lu Xuan was that steward he was followed by the granddaughter of the foundation building alchemist, He Yuntang. Dao he called out. Dao Lu, I came to bother you today, because I have something to ask of you. He Yuntang said with a smile, and Lu Xuan noticed that her attitude was much more sincere and warm than the 2 times he had met her before. I wonder if I can help you? Lu, did you cultivate a good quality red cloud pine? The old man next to him put down the spiritual tea in his hand and asked. Yes, Lu Xuan admitted. Does Dao have any good or high quality pine nuts? He Yuntang asked quickly, with a look of expectation. After the girl in red returned to the Xuan family garden, she learned that the girl had exchanged a red cloud pine nut from Xuan when she was talking to everyone. She kept an eye on it and asked Stuarty to bring it to Xuan's house when she returned to Baekotang, hoping to get another red cloud pine nut from him and give it to the girl in red to curry favor with her. Seeing her expression, Xuan thought for a moment and took out 3 red cloud pine nuts from his storage bag. 2 of them are of top quality, and this one is of perfect quality? He Yuntang said with her eyes wide open in surprise. The thin old man beside him looked at Xuan, and a look of relief appeared on his face. What do you want? He Yuntang quickly restrained her mood, and asked softly at Xuan. Xuan took out 3 red cloud pine nuts, 2 of which were of top quality and 1 was of perfect quality. She, who had been in charge of Baekotang for a long time, immediately understood that Xuan wanted to make a deal with her. I want 2 methods of refining spirit seeds, one for the spirit firefly grass spirit seed, and the other for any spirit seed of any grade. Xuan said in a deep voice with a firm tone. The girl in red couldn't get anything related to spirit plants, but Yuntang might not be able to get it. According to his understanding, Baekotang had mastered many methods of refining spirit seeds, and this was also what he had been thinking about and dreaming of. During the doubling period, I would like to ask for a monthly ticket. Sob sob. Chapter 78 The Foundation of Life. Impossible. Yuntang refused subconsciously when she heard Xuan's request. The method of refining spirit seeds, like the pill formula, is extremely valuable in Baekotang and has never been circulated to the outside world. You can change to something else. If it must be a spirit plant, when the hall needs to cultivate new 2nd grade spirit plants, I can decide to give you more cultivation qualifications. Xuan shook his head. He wanted 2nd grade spirit plants, but with the ability to cultivate high grade spirit plants, they would naturally come to him. Compared with giving fish, he is more looking forward to teaching people how to fish. Baekotang can condense so many kinds of 1st and 2nd grade spiritual seeds. I only need the method of producing one of the 1st grade spiritual plants. My appetite is already small. As for the method of condensing the spiritual seeds of Lingyiang grass, it's just a side effect. Lingyiang grass is the most common basic material in Baekotang. It is cultivated by many spiritual plant masters. Even if I plant more, it will not have much impact on the entire market. Xuan said nonchalantly. In fact, he valued the method of condensing the spiritual seeds of Lingyiang grass more in his heart. After all, it has only been found that it can bring cultivation rewards. It would be best if he could master the method of producing seeds by himself. What's more, I have 3 red cloud pine nuts in my hand, 2 of which are of top quality, and 1 is of perfect quality, that is rare among thousands. If fellow Daoist he offers them to senior sister Zhu from Lisan sect and meets her needs for spiritual pets, it will definitely leave a deep impression on her and establish a deep relationship with her. Senior sister Zhu comes from a famous and upright sect. Whether it is cultivation or background, she is a first-class existence. It goes without saying that there are benefits to being on good terms with her. Xuan's tone was full of temptation. He did not disclose the fact that he cultivated high-quality red cloud pine nuts to anyone. After the red-clothed girl left, Yuntang from Baekotang followed closely and asked for the remaining pine nuts in his hand. As soon as he opened his mouth, Xuan quickly figured out the source of the matter. Hearing Xuan's words, Yuntang's face was uncertain. She admitted that what Xuan said made sense. Even if a casual spiritual plant master knew the method of condensing spiritual seeds, the number of spiritual plants he could plant was extremely limited. And the next opportunity to please the disciples of the sect like this, I don't know when I will encounter it next time. Okay, I agree to your terms. She hesitated again and again, but finally agreed. But you have to make a vow that you must not spread the method of refining spirit seeds to the outside world without the permission of Baekotang. The spirit seeds you condense can only be cultivated by yourself, and you must not use them to seek benefits. That's what I should do. Xuan agreed readily. These 2 conditions were nothing to him. Yuntang took out a piece of talisman paper with black lines on a white background from her storage bag. She circulated her spiritual power, and the tadpole-like black lines on the talisman paper instantly flowed. Under the control of her spiritual consciousness, 3 lines of small black characters were formed. Then, the talisman paper bent and changed, forming a paper bird. It spread its wings and soared into the sky, disappearing in a few breaths. A moment later, a middle-aged alchemist followed the bird formed by the talisman paper and found the location of Lu Xuan's courtyard. Junior brother, I have brought the jade slip you asked for. It has 2 methods of refining spirit seeds engraved inside. One is the first grade blood jade ginseng spirit seed, and the other is the non-grade firefly grass spirit seed. The middle-aged alchemist handed He Yuntang a blue jade slip and said with his head down, "Thank you for your hard work, Uncle Zhang." He Yuntang nodded and took the jade slip. The middle-aged alchemist withdrew very tactfully. This is the jade slip of power transmission. It has the method of refining spirit seeds you need. Just put it on your forehead and the corresponding knowledge will be transmitted to your mind. After absorbing it, the jade slip will lose its effect and destroy itself. After you swear, you can trade immediately. Lu Xuan swore the inner demon oath, took the jade slip of power transmission from He Yuntang, and handed her 3 red cloud pine nuts. The transaction was concluded, and He Yuntang and the steward he beside him did not stay for long and left first. Lu Xuan came to the house and carefully examined the blue jade slip in his hand, feeling a lot of emotion in his heart. As the level of life increases, it is difficult for cultivators to give birth to offspring, and the same is true for spiritual plants. It is rare for spiritual plants to produce spiritual seeds in the wild. They need to be in a specific environment, mature, and condense spiritual seeds by chance. After generations of observation, exploration, and experimentation, spiritual plant masters have gradually summarized the method of refining spiritual seeds, which can condense spiritual seeds in a targeted and quantitative manner, and cultivate spiritual plants on a large scale. Lu Xuan was just a casual cultivator before. He gradually changed his fate after he got the white light ball by chance. He had never systematically studied spiritual plant knowledge, let alone practiced the spiritual seed refining method that the sects and families held tightly in their hands. This is the foundation of a spiritual plant master. He sighed, put the blue jade slip on his forehead, and probed into it with his spiritual consciousness. Suddenly, a large amount of information flowed into his sea of consciousness like a river bursting its banks. The jade slip in his hand shattered silently, turning into dozens of broken jade pieces that fell to the ground. After a while, he digested and absorbed the information that appeared in his mind. The timing, techniques, and special tips for refining spirit seeds quickly passed through his mind. With the method of refining spirit firefly grass spirit seeds, if I leave the market and go to a new place in the future, I don't have to worry about not being able to find spirit firefly grass spirit seeds. Lu Xuan thought secretly and decided to wait for this batch of 120 spirit fireflies to mature, and then he would keep some seeds for emergency use. As for the first grade blood jade ginseng spirit seeds, on the surface, they seem to be more valuable than the spirit firefly grass spirit seeds, but in fact, they are just a bonus for Lu Xuan, and other first grade spirit seeds can replace them. After absorbing the knowledge in his mind, Lu Xuan took out the book Common Spiritual Plants and Their Treatment Methods from the Red Clothed Girl. With the help of the dim candlelight, he read the book in his hand attentively. The more than 100 kinds of spirit plants and their picking and storage methods recorded in the classics are very useful to him now, and he can build a spirit plant master system in a relatively systematic way. The various and bizarre methods of picking and storing spiritual plants opened his eyes. For a moment, he completely forgot the passage of time and immersed himself in the ocean of knowledge. On the bed, the cloud-stepping lynx curled up into a ball, seemingly in a deep sleep. But whenever Lu Xuan made a slight noise when turning the pages of a book, the 2 tufts of grey-white hair on its pointed ears would tremble slightly, paying close attention to Lu Xuan's every move. It was not until midnight that Lu Xuan read through the book and closed his eyes to rest, and the 2 tufts of hair on the tips of the lynx's ears naturally drooped down and remained motionless. Outside the house, the spiritual field was covered with thick white fog, and the straw puppet walked tirelessly between the ridges of the spiritual field with its slender legs. Chapter 79 Beast Spirit Pill. The next morning, Lu Xuan, who had obtained the method of refining spirit seeds, felt refreshed and happy when he woke up. After walking around the spirit field, he felt even better. In the area where the blood jade ginseng was located, he found that the progress bars under 4 blood jade ginsengs were full and entered the fully mature stage. Among the 4 blood jade ginsengs, 2 were of good quality and the other 2 were of superior quality. Blood jade ginseng is a first-grade spiritual plant. The difficulty of planting and the requirements for the concentration and purity of spiritual energy are higher than those of firefly grass. The probability of a perfect quality will only be lower, so Lu Xuan was not disappointed. After the blood jade ginseng was picked, 4 slightly flickering white light balls naturally appeared at the original location, where the spiritual plants were planted. Lu Xuan picked up the 4 white light balls one by one. Harvest a blood jade ginseng, and obtain a second-grade elixir, the blood spirit pill. Right square bracket asterisk 2 thoughts flashed through Lu Xuan's mind. Then, 2 round pills emitting rich blood energy appeared in Lu Xuan's hands. Including the previous 4 pills, Lu Xuan has obtained a total of 6 second-grade blood soul pills. The other 2 high-quality blood jade ginsengs brought the second-grade secret technique of burning blood arrows as expected. Harvest 1 blood jade ginseng, and obtain the second-grade secret technique of burning blood arrows. Right square bracket asterisk 2 as the thought flashed through his mind. Many things about the secret technique of burning blood arrows suddenly popped up in his head. The 2 secret technique experience packs promoted his control of the secret technique from the previous proficiency to the mastery level, as if he had used this secret technique to fight hundreds of life and death battles with monks. He had a deeper and more thorough understanding of many details of the burning blood arrow. Although he had not officially used it, he had a kind of confidence that he could operate it freely. Although he had obtained the method of condensing the blood jade ginseng spirit seed, Lu Xuan had not completely digested it, so he was not in a hurry to produce seeds. He planned to keep the last 2 blood jade ginsengs and not pick them when they were mature, but to condense the spirit seeds. He separated the remaining 9 entangled blood jade ginsengs and inspected the other spirit plants in the spirit field again. After his careful cultivation during this period, the 120 spiritual fireflies grew well, green and lush, with fine fluorescence on the slender leaves, glowing with vitality. When the first batch of spiritual fireflies mature, absorb a few light balls with cultivation bonuses, and practice hard during this period, I should be able to break through to the 7th level of key training immediately. Lu Xuan thought without shame. In the days without spiritual fireflies, his cultivation seemed to be stagnant, without any progress. He was only a thin line away from the 7th level of key training, but there was no way to break through that thin film. After checking all the spiritual plants in the spiritual field, the squinting boy named Yuji came over on the way and brought a bottle of green water python blood that was still warm for Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan paid Yuji 10 spiritual stones and told him to be careful. The boy smiled and showed his fangs and was very grateful to Lu Xuan. After the young man left, Lu Xuan came to the spiritual field where the Jiao vine was planted and opened the bottle stopper. Suddenly, red and green mixed green python blood flowed out of the bottle and poured on the Jiao vine. Red and green patterns appeared on the vine, and against the background of the dark vine, there was a different kind of charm. It was winding, twisted and powerful, and slowly crawling, like a strange black snake lurking in the mist waiting for an opportunity to move. After being nourished by the previous bottle of green python blood, the Jiao vine was about 2 inches longer than before, and the newly grown section was slightly tender, which looked a bit inconsistent at first glance. After nourishing the Jiao vine, Lu Xuan came to the Linquan pond and planned to scoop some spiritual spring water to pour on the 3 second-grade King Neolingcha. As soon as he approached, he found a white light bowl floating up and down with the waves in the Linquan pond. "Get up." He only said the word "get up," and the cloud-stepping lynx, who was lying on the edge of the spiritual spring pool and teasing the remaining 2 red-bearded carps, pulled them out in an instant. "You reacted quite quickly. Can't wait to eat fish?" Lu Xuan was startled by his action. The red thread needle shot out from his sleeve, pierced the head of the mature red-bearded carp, and took it into the kitchen. The remaining red-bearded carp fell into the spiritual spring pool in fear, causing a large splash of water. The rippling water caused the pure snow lotus in the center of the spiritual spring pool to tremble. The flower buds in the snow white lotus leaves quietly opened a little, and the layers of white and tender petals inside could be vaguely seen. The two thin red whiskers swayed restlessly in the spiritual spring pool, trying to squeeze their plump bodies behind the pure snow lotus. Xuan fished out the white light ball in the water, and the light ball turned into countless tiny light points, and poured into his body. Harvest red-bearded carp and obtain a second-grade elixir beast spirit pill. Then, a thought flashed through his mind, and a grey-black pill appeared in his hand. Beast Spirit Pill, a second-grade pill, is made from a variety of low-grade spiritual herbs and spiritual medicines that most monsters like. It contains rich spiritual power and can be used to feed spirit beasts and promote their growth. Pill specifically for spirit beasts. It seems that you, little guy, are getting a bargain. Xuan sighed as he looked at the cloud-stepping lynx, who was shaking his short and thick tail and going to the kitchen. He first put away the beast spirit pill, went to the kitchen, peeled off the long whiskers and scales on the red-bearded carp, cleaned them, and made a dish of braised red-bearded carp. It was still incomparably delicious. Last time it was boiled, this time it was braised. Next time you can try steaming. 3 ways of cooking. Just happened to be 3 red-bearded carps, all with beautiful and bright stomachs. Xuan had a full meal, and sighed in his heart. Come here, I'll give you some snacks after dinner. He summoned the cloud-stepping lynx, and stuffed the beast spirit pill into its mouth. Not long after taking it, the cloud-stepping lynx's aura suddenly increased. Its body size increased, its hair became more black and shiny, and the 4 white clouds under its paws were pure white. Xuan tested it, and found that the lynx's speed was a bit faster than before. At the same time, the claws hidden in the thick paws were sharper, and it was easy to leave deep marks on the stone wall. Sensing the increase in its own strength, the cloud-stepping lynx couldn't suppress its inner joy, and roared at Xuan. Xuan keenly noticed that the voice of this green-eyed cloud-stepping lynx was more rough and hoarse than before, which was very inconsistent with the high appearance of the lynx. You barked very well, don't bark again next time. Xuan said helplessly to the cloud-stepping lynx. Other stepping cloud lynx tried to make a clip-like sound, as if to prove to Xuan that its cry was not unpleasant. Haha. Xuan couldn't help but pull the grey hair on the tip of its ear when he heard its artificial and coy cry. The stepping cloud lynx raised its head, and its pair of green pupils swept across Xuan's face coldly. It walked straight to the edge of the spiritual spring pool and stared indifferently at the only remaining red-bearded carp in the pool. The grey hair on the tip of its ear was shaking slightly, and Xuan could see the joy in its heart without concentrating on it. Chapter 80, Copper Bone Bamboo. In the corner of the spiritual field, Xuan picked the diseased spiritual plants that were almost recovered one by one and put them into the storage bag. There were 12 first-grade diseased spiritual plants and 4 second-grade spiritual plants that were purchased several times. They were still a while away from maturity, since there was no white light ball reward, and the spiritual plants themselves were seriously damaged. Xuan did not think about improving their quality, and just kept them, as long as they were almost mature. There were still 11 first-grade blood jade ginsengs in the storage bag. So Xuan took the cloud-stepping lynx and went to Bakeo Hall. In Bakeo Hall, seeing Xuan appear, a hint of joy appeared on the face of manager He. Lu boy, what other spiritual plants are mature? Some of the diseased spiritual plants purchased last time have been cured, and more than 10 blood jade ginsengs bought from the hall half a year ago have also matured, so I came here to deal with them. Of course, the main thing is to see you, old man. Xuan smiled and took the spiritual tea from a medicine boy and thanked him. You are not thinking about me, but you are thinking about the spiritual stones in my hand. Come on. Xuan first took out the 12 cured spiritual plants and put them on the counter. The quality of these spiritual plants was identified by manager He one by one. They were basically inferior to ordinary quality, and the price was a little lower than that of normal first-grade spiritual plants. Xuan exchanged them for nearly 200 spiritual stones. There are also 11 blood jade ginsengs. Xuan's right hand swept over, and 11 blood jade ginsengs appeared on the counter. Each one was exquisite and translucent, like a blood red jade, exuding a rich and pure spiritual energy. This is. The thin old man had taken over the spiritual plants for who knows how many years. He could tell at a glance that these blood jade ginsengs were of extraordinary quality. He held them carefully in his palms and examined them carefully. Superior quality is rare. Many spiritual plant masters have not even cultivated blood jade ginseng of this quality. Good quality, not bad. Is there a perfect quality one? Manager he couldn't help but look up at Xuan, who was lazily sitting beside him and drinking tea. He really couldn't imagine that this young man who was sitting awkwardly could cultivate a perfect quality first grade spiritual plant. Although Xuan had sent several perfect quality non-grade spiritual firefly grasses before, it would be much more difficult to grow a perfect quality spiritual plant. He collected his mind and counted the blood jade ginseng on the counter. 11 blood jade ginsengs, 6 of which are good quality, 4 are superior quality, and 1 is perfect quality. 25 spirit stones per plant for good quality, 27 for superior quality, and 34 perfect quality. What do you think? Okay, you can make the decision. Xuan waved his hand, indicating that it was up to the old man to decide. A total of 288 spirit stones. You keep them. Manager he quickly counted and handed all the spirit stones to Xuan. Xuan took a small pile of spirit stones with a smile and put them into his storage bag. With the addition of the more than 200 spirit stones brought by the 12 first grade diseased spirit plants, his wealth broke through to 800 spirit stones. Among the casual cultivators, he was considered to be very wealthy. I never realized before that you had such a unique talent in cultivating spirit plants. You can actually cultivate a first grade perfect quality spirit plant. No wonder you exchanged the spirit seed condensation method from the eldest lady 2 days ago. It seems that you are very ambitious. Manager he teased. What ambition do you have? You are just an ordinary spirit plant master who cultivates spirit plants day and night. Xuan laughed. The only thing that can be called ambitious is that I want to cultivate more and better spirit plants. Alas, you are so young, but you have given up cultivation, and you don't go to compete with others for opportunities. You are devoted to the path of spirit plants. I don't know whether to say you are pure or stubborn. The thin old man sighed. However, with your ability to cultivate spiritual plants, even if your cultivation is ordinary, you will be favored by many forces and become a hot commodity in their eyes. The two chatted for a while. Last time, when the eldest lady and I returned to the hall, she told me that if there are any good spiritual seeds or spiritual plant seedlings, you will be given priority and be on the same level as the spiritual plant masters directly cultivated in the hall. Manager he suddenly said to Xuan. Xuan nodded to show that he understood. The spiritual plant masters under the free cooperation model definitely did not have the right to choose seeds as the spiritual plant masters of Baikotang. If there were good spiritual seeds and spiritual plant seedlings, they would be considered to be planted in the Baikotang medicine garden first, and then they would be sold to free cooperation spiritual plant masters at a low price. According to what the old man said, although the cooperation model between him and Baikotang remained unchanged, the right to choose spiritual seeds and spiritual plant seedlings was a little greater. Mr. He, do you have anything to recommend? I have several first grade spiritual seeds of high quality. You can choose freely according to your needs. In addition, there are several seedlings of second grade spiritual plants called copperbone bamboo. What do you think? Xuan lowered his head in thought. He did not have much demand for first grade spiritual plants at present. He wanted to try to grow seeds of blood jade ginseng by himself. In addition, there was not much area left in the spiritual field, so he decided to focus on quality rather than quantity. Then please help me get those second grade copperbone bamboos. After a while, the old man took out 5 purple red bamboos from the inside. The surface of the bamboos was shining like metal, with protruding joints and dark gold color. This is the second grade copperbone bamboo. It is a high quality material for refining magic tools, especially flying swords. It can also be added to some special elixirs after being ground into powder. Manager he introduced. If you buy the copperbone bamboo seedlings from somewhere else, it will cost about 40 to 50 spirit stones. Since you have a cooperative relationship with the hall, you can take them away for 35 spirit stones per plant. Okay, I'll take all 5. The wealthy Xuan said proudly. He gave manager he 175 spirit stones and took the 5 second grade copperbone bamboo seedlings. Bakeo Hall is not far from the house, so moving there will not have much impact on the vitality of the copperbone bamboo seedlings. In addition, the 3rd grade life bag is quite eye-catching, so Lu Xuan directly put it in the cloth bag, said goodbye to the old man, and got up to go home. Wang family. Father, according to the news from the new secret realm, the family cultivators have begun to contact the core area of the secret realm, but the restrictions inside are too powerful, so the progress is quite slow. Also, there is an extremely difficult evil spirit in the secret realm. It can put on the skin of a dead cultivator and disguise itself as an ordinary cultivator, causing many unnecessary casualties. The handsome young man Wang Chang'an bowed his head and reported to the head of the Wang family. It seems that it is difficult for a family to enjoy the secret realm alone. You spread the news and invite other family forces in the market to participate. Let them work together to break the restrictions of the secret realm and get a share of the pie. As for those evil spirits, aren't the spirit beasts raised by your 2 fellow disciples the best at discovering and pursuing evil spirits? You go and invite them to explore the secret realm together and clean up those evil spirits along the way. Yes. Wang Chang'an responded respectfully. Chapter 81, Seed. After opening the gate, the cloud-stepping lynx that had been lying on Lu Xuan's shoulder jumped down and came to the edge of the spiritual spring pond without looking back, staring closely at the lone red-bearded carp seedling in the pond. Lu Xuan glanced around the spiritual field. Everything was normal. The grass puppets were very responsible in patrolling the entire spiritual field. He came to the area where the diseased spiritual plants were cultivated before and took out the 5 copperbone bamboos. Using the earth drawing technique, the structure of the spiritual soil quietly changed, revealing a crack that fit perfectly with the roots of the copperbone bamboo seedlings without any gaps. After all 5 copperbone bamboo seedlings were planted, Lu Xuan's mind focused on the purple-red bamboo. Suddenly, a piece of information about copperbone bamboo flooded into his sea of consciousness. Copperbone bamboo, a 2nd grade spiritual plant. The cultivated bamboo is very tough and can be used to refine magic tools, especially suitable for refining flying swords, and can also be used as a material for some special elixirs. After adding copper and iron ore during the cultivation process, it will promote the growth rate of copperbone bamboo, and the spiritual ore will be more effective. The smaller the ore volume, the faster the copperbone bamboo absorbs and digests it. If you have a copperbone body, how can you break through yourself and grow taller? You need copper and iron ores, and the spiritual ore will be more effective. Although the cultivation conditions are a bit strange, it's not difficult, much easier than the 3rd grade gyro vine. Copper and iron spiritual ore is quite common in the casual cultivator market, and the price is not very expensive. Lu Xuan first performed a round of spiritual rain magic, and strands of spiritual raindrops fell down and merged into the spiritual soil near the copperbone bamboo, so that it was absorbed by the bamboo roots. He planned to let the copperbone bamboo adapt to the spiritual soil environment first, and then buy spiritual ore a few days later, to speed up the cultivation. 2 days passed in a blink of an eye. Lu Xuan inspected the spiritual field, and heard Wu Wenjing's call from the next door. Dao Yao Lu, come and have a drink. Lu Xuan shook his head and smiled, took out a piece of dried monster meat from the kitchen, and brought the cloud-stepping lynx to the home of the cultivator surnamed Wu. Dao Yao Wu, is there anything on your mind? After a few cups of warm spiritual wine, Lu Xuan saw that the old man was distracted and his eyes were drifting, so he asked, Dao Yao Lu, do you know what's going on in the market recently? I've been staying at home to take care of and cultivate spiritual plants. I haven't gone out these days. Lu Xuan shook his head to indicate that he didn't know. Dao Yao Lu can be said to be oblivious to the outside world and is devoted to cultivating spiritual plants. Wu Wenjing sighed and continued. It is rumored that the group of cultivators of the Wang family who opened up the secret realm have already entered the core of the secret realm, but the restrictions are difficult to break, so they invited other family forces in the market to intervene. The outer area of the secret realm is also open to the outside world, and many independent cultivators are eager to try and want to enter the new secret realm to find opportunities. So, fellow Daoist Wu is unwilling to be lonely and wants to wade into the muddy water? Lu Xuan looked at Wu Wenjing with a smile. Yes, I'm indeed a little tempted. Wu Wenjing smiled bitterly. The monsters and evil spirits in the outer area have been almost cleared out during the Yuan family's exploration. At the same time, it is also the time when there are the most resources, so many cultivators want to find out. Anyway, I don't have any ideas. Lu Xuan saw that Wu Wenjing seemed to want to invite him to enter the outer area of the new secret realm together, and directly pointed out his attitude. Even if there are no demonic beasts in the outer area, does fellow Daoist Wu have the confidence to seize cultivation resources from other cultivators? Fellow Daoist has experienced much more than me, and you should know that sometimes people of the same race are much more terrifying than demonic beasts. Wu Wenjing heard this, his old face turned pale and blue, and after a long time, he exhaled deeply. Thank you for reminding me, fellow Daoist Lu, I'm obsessed. In the past few decades, I have been able to calm down and not think about opportunities and treasures, but when I really encounter such an opportunity, I always have some fantasies in my heart. The deadline is approaching, but I'm still unwilling to give up. Lu Xuan was silent, not knowing how to persuade him. He understood the situation of the cultivator surnamed Wu. The lifespan of a key training cultivator is more than 100 years, and no one can accept that he is getting closer to death. If you see a glimmer of opportunity to change your fate, it is like a drowning person grabbing a life-saving straw, using all your strength to break free. In his heart, he was lucky that he would be rewarded with a white light bowl for cultivating spiritual plants. Otherwise, he would probably be like Wu Wenjing, floating in the sea of suffering in cultivation, unable to withstand any wind and waves. It's better to stay in the market honestly. I'm old and weak, not as good as before, and I've fallen behind in fighting for many years. If I really go to the secret realm, I guess any cultivator of the same level can defeat me. The old man said with a wry smile, his eyes dim. Lu Xuan didn't say anything, and raised his glass. Wu Wenjing clinked his glasses, and looked at Lu Xuan. Sometimes I really don't know how to evaluate you. You are obviously young, but you look more like an old man than me. Such a good opportunity, but you can still keep your state of mind and remain unmoved. You are much more stable than me. Haha, this is what it means to have no desires and no demands. It's enough for me to be an ordinary spiritual plant master in peace and stability. Lu Xuan maintained his personality very well. After the two of them had a good meal and a good drink, Lu Xuan returned home and continued to plant spiritual plants. By controlling the real-time status of the spiritual plants, he took good care of them. Another 5 days passed quickly. During these days, Lu Xuan bought a pound of ungraded ore from the casual cultivator market and tried to see what effect it would have if mixed into the copper bone bamboo. During this period, 5 of the 9 blood jade ginsengs left were mature, 3 were of good quality, and 2 were of superior quality. The 5 white light balls that appeared also brought rewards. Harvest 1 blood jade ginseng and obtain a second grade elixir blood soul pill point right square bracket asterisk 3. Harvest 1 blood jade ginseng and obtain the second grade secret technique burning blood arrow point right square bracket asterisk 2 from the 5 light balls. Lu Xuan obtained 3 second grade blood soul pills and left them in the storage bag waiting for the opportunity to use the burning blood arrow. After absorbing all the 2 burning blood arrow experience packs, his understanding of this secret technique has been further refined. Because of the reluctance to waste his blood essence, although Lu Xuan had not yet used it, he also felt that the release speed and power of the secret technique had increased a lot. In addition, he planned to try to cultivate the remaining 4 blood jade ginsengs into blood jade ginseng spiritual seeds. After the spiritual plants in the cultivation world mature naturally, if they are not picked, they will continue to grow for a period of time, and some will directly wither and merge into the world. Some will gather the essence of spiritual plants, condense spiritual seeds, and spread through various channels. When they encounter abundant spiritual power and a suitable environment, they will germinate and grow new spiritual plants. The spiritual seeds condensed naturally have different qualities and are small in number, so they may not be able to cultivate spiritual plants. The method of condensing seeds summarized by the cultivators after countless years can not only condense more spiritual seeds, but also ensure the quality of the spiritual seeds, so that most of them can be successfully planted. Lu Xuan left 4 blood jade ginsengs just to try whether the method of condensing seeds passed down to him by Bei Ko Tang is feasible. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 80 to Key Training Level 7. 10 days passed in a blink of an eye. During these 10 days, Lu Xuan basically stayed in the yard, cultivating spiritual plants and teasing the cloud stepping lynx. During this period, he occasionally went to the casual cultivator market and bought some spiritual rice and monster meat for daily needs, as well as copper and iron, or acquired for the 2nd grade copper bone bamboo. When he was at the casual cultivator market, he felt that it was filled with a restless atmosphere. The opening of the outer area of the new secret realm made many cultivators active, and the prices of magic tools, talismans, and elixirs in the market rose a lot. This had little impact on Lu Xuan. He lived a simple and busy life according to his usual rhythm. In the spiritual field, the 4 mature blood jade ginsengs had new changes. Lu Xuan followed the method of refining spiritual seeds obtained from Bei Ko Tang, and his spiritual power penetrated into the mature blood jade ginseng, secretly guiding the flow of the spiritual energy of the plants inside. At this time, a light red stem appeared on the top of the blood jade ginseng, and a massive red things condensed on the stem, similar to jade wrapped in stone. Through a thin layer of red film on the surface, you can see that there are several ginseng seeds inside. The next thing to do is to cultivate these ginseng seeds well, and when the time is right, use a special method to peel them off. After processing, they can be used to cultivate new blood jade ginseng. I just don't know if it will affect the light ball reward if the mature spiritual plants are not picked normally. He thought to himself that when he treated those diseased spiritual plants before, because they were not planted by himself, and the cultivation time was short, there was no light ball reward after picking them. He was not sure whether the condensation of spiritual seeds would also be affected. Near the blood jade ginseng, the firefly grass that occupied more than half of the spiritual field was growing well, green and lush, with fluorescent dots on the slender leaves, full of vitality and lovely. Lu Xuan used the rain technique, wood growth technique, and earth attraction technique, in turn to nourish the many firefly grasses. After absorbing a lot of experience packs and performing it many times a day, his control of the wood growth technique has reached the small success level, which can slightly improve the growth progress of low-grade spiritual plants. By understanding the current state of the firefly grass and comparing it with the past, Lu Xuan estimated that this batch of firefly grass could enter the mature stage several days earlier. By the Linquan pond, the cloud-stepping lynx crouched, its green eyes fixed on the lone red-bearded carp. Although the red-bearded carp was not very intelligent, it realized that it was not safe outside the Linquan pond after its companions disappeared one after another. It either hid at the bottom of the pond or swam around the edge of the pond, relying on the stone walls of the pond for defense. Hearing the footsteps of Lu Xuan, the gray-white hair on the tip of the cloud-stepping lynx's ears moved slightly, and it turned its head and looked at Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan immediately understood what it was thinking, and seeing a white ball of light floating in the Linquan pond, he couldn't help but smile. "Let's cook." As soon as it heard the first word, the cloud-stepping lynx suddenly rushed out, and its white cloud-like feet gently stepped on the water surface, and took advantage of the opportunity to hook the thin red long whiskers of the red-bearded carp. Before Lu Xuan could offer the red thread needle, it took the struggling and jumping red-bearded carp into the kitchen. Lu Xuan couldn't help laughing. This little guy was addicted to eating red-bearded carp. However, the meat of monsters raised by spiritual springs and spiritual rice was really good. He scooped up the white ball of light on the surface of the spiritual spring pool. Or thought flashed through his mind. Harvest red-bearded carp and obtain the first grade magic wood wall magic. A magic appeared in his sea of consciousness. The wood wall magic can control the surrounding trees, or stimulate the birth of certain special spiritual species, quickly build a wooden wall to resist external attacks. In an environment with a large number of spiritual trees, it can enhance the power of the magic. First grade defense magic, not bad. Lu Xuan muttered to himself. In the cultivation world, among the treasures of the same grade, the value of skills, magic, and pill recipes is the highest, followed by formations, magic tools, pills, talismans, etc., which are slightly lower, and then various monster materials, spiritual herbs, spiritual medicines, spiritual minerals, spiritual stones, etc. As for spiritual seeds, they are the lowest value. Of course, there is no absolute high or low. Depending on its efficacy, function, quantity, etc., there will be a certain degree of variation. For example, the prices of several materials from the same demon beast may vary greatly. The first grade wooden wall technique is not much weaker than the second grade magic weapon red scale armor and the second grade elixir beast spirit pill that the two red bearded carps opened before. Lu Xuan resisted the urge to use the spiritual plants in the spiritual field to perform magic, and returned to the kitchen. The stepping cloud lynx had already put the red-bearded carp in the pot. Whenever the red-bearded carp wanted to jump out of the pot, it would slap it back with its paw. It was completely crushing the red-bearded carp. I don't know if the red-bearded carp was tired physically or mentally, or both. It slowly stopped and accepted the fact that it was lying in the pot. It's unnecessary. It's not cleaned up yet. Lu Xuan pushed the cloud stepping lynx aside, took out the half-dead red-bearded carp, cut off the tooth and red whiskers and fish scales with the broken pieces of the silver blade, cut open the fish belly, and took out the internal organs. Half an hour later, the man and the beast sat slumped without caring about their image, with satisfied expressions on their faces. The days of cultivating spiritual plants are simple, peaceful, fulfilling and busy, but Lu Xuan is happy with it. No matter what changes happen in the outside world, he only guards this 1/3 acre of spiritual field and quietly waits for the spiritual plants to mature. Unknowingly, the first batch of the 120 spiritual firefly grasses planted have matured. Lu Xuan carefully checked the spiritual field and found the 10 spiritual firefly grasses that entered the fully mature stage first. Among the 10 spiritual firefly grasses, there are 4 of good quality and 4 of superior quality, and 2 of perfect quality. My cultivation can finally increase significantly. Lu Xuan sighed. While waiting for the firefly grass to mature, he would practice on his own in his spare time, but the snail-like pace was really unbearable for him. Firefly grass, increased my cultivation. Thoughts flashed through his mind. Harvest 1 firefly grass, gain 6 months of cultivation point right square bracket asterisk 3. Harvest 1 firefly grass, gain 9 months of cultivation point right square bracket asterisk 2. 5 of the 10 white light balls were cultivation rewards. In an instant, a large amount of spiritual power emerged from his body, raging wildly in his dantian and veins. After the spiritual power calmed down, Lu Xuan was surprised to find that his cultivation, which had been stuck in the 6th level of key training for a long time, broke through to the 7th level of key training in one fell swoop. Finally promoted to the ranks of high-level key training cultivators. Lu Xuan felt the surging and deep spiritual power in his body, and was filled with emotion. More than a year ago, he was just a small casual cultivator at the 2nd level of key training, with ordinary talent, practicing low-level skills, and no spiritual stones to buy elixirs to improve his cultivation. He lived on the outskirts of the mixed market, living in fear every day. If he wanted to break through to the higher level of key training with ease, it would take many years, and perhaps he would not be able to achieve it until the end of his life. It is even very likely that he would perish while exploring the secret realm and seeking opportunities, disappearing silently, and all living beings would be like the sea without causing any ripples. Looking at the many spiritual plants growing vigorously in the spiritual field, he was even more grateful that he had the favor of the white light ball. Chapter 83. I like your unruly look. The remaining 5 mature firefly grasses produced 3 first grade talismans, 2 sword energy talismans, and 1 exorcism talisman. There was also a drop of grass spirit essence, which Lu Xuan stuffed into the huge tumor of the loyal grass puppet. Under the impact of a large amount of plant spirit energy, the huge head of the grass puppet gradually turned green. Another perfect quality firefly grass produced a Zhengjin sword art experience pack. After Lu Xuan absorbed it and mastered it, he felt that his understanding of this sword art had reached an extreme level. Grandmaster level first grade sword art. Lu Xuan's mind moved, and a golden sword energy shot out from his body, swimming rapidly in the yard, leaving a trail of after images. The sword energy can be sent and received at will, whether it is speed, attack range, or lethality. Lu Xuan estimates that the Jengjin sword art can already surpass many second grade spells. He put the 10 firefly grasses in a jade box, and continued to inspect the spiritual field. The 4 blood jade ginsengs that were left for seed had their seeds growing fuller and brighter red. It would not take long before they were ready for harvest. On the old branches of the King Miaolingcha, the tiny green tea leaves trembled slightly in the wind. The spiritual soil around the copper bone bamboo was full of red and golden copper and iron fragments. After this period of nourishment, the bamboo joints had grown a little taller. The range of the smoke around the Huana and Luo fruit expanded a little more. The smoke-like spiritual fruit hid in it, almost blending into the surrounding smoke. The Jiao vine was watered with the second grade green water python blood every other day. Under the influence of the python blood, the black vines were already covered with red and green patterns, and occasionally slowly crawled, looking like a bright poisonous snake. The sword grass and the dark marrow Ganoderma were getting closer and closer to maturity. Lu Xuan would come to check the progress bar below the spiritual plants every day, for fear of missing the most suitable time for them to mature. The Jinxa lotus bloomed alone in the spiritual spring pool, but it was a pity that the red-bearded carp that had been accompanying it to grow had disappeared, and the pure white lotus could not be seen. Lu Xuan looked at the empty spiritual spring pool, and suddenly an idea came to his mind. The monsters raised by the spiritual spring have very tender meat, so it would be a bit of a waste to plant a pure snow lotus. Lu Xuan decided to go to the SYNOPSIS market to see if he could find any aquatic monsters. Well, it would be best if they were edible. He did it as he thought. He moved his shoulders slightly, and the cloud-stepping lynx squatting on the wall beside him immediately jumped down, and its white cloud-like paws lay on Lu Xuan's clothes. Seeing Lu Xuan looking sideways, a pair of green eyes stared at Lu Xuan coldly. "Grass puppet, take good care of the house." Lu Xuan called out to the grass puppet with half of its head green not far away. The grass puppet, with its half-green head, twisted slowly, as if responding to Lu Xuan. After being stuffed with a few drops of grass spirit essence by Lu Xuan, the grass puppet has developed simple intelligence, and can better execute Lu Xuan's orders. Lu Xuan opened the mist-hidden maze, and came to the SYNOPSIS market. After not coming for a few days, the stalls in the market have changed a lot. Lu Xuan had been paying attention to it before, and soon he noticed that many stalls had a large number of new varieties of monster materials, spiritual herbs and spiritual medicines. Among them, there are many second-grade materials and spiritual medicines. Lu Xuan came to a busy place, and he heard a lot of whispers. "Some time ago, I heard that many cultivators made a fortune, and found a lot of treasures in the secret realm. A friend of mine said that a fellow cultivator came back from the secret realm to make love with her. After a long conversation, he gave her a large amount of spiritual stones. It is said that he found a hidden pile of spiritual herbs in the secret realm and brought back dozens of first and second grade spiritual plants. That's not all. The day before yesterday, I heard that a key training cultivator found a mysterious cave and obtained a third grade skill from the secret realm, which can be practiced to the foundation building stage. I'm so envious." As they talked, many cultivators showed envy and jealousy, wishing they could exchange with the cultivators who got the opportunity and rise to prominence from then on. Lu Xuan walked through the crowd with a calm mind. Although the new secret realm had been explored by the Xuan family, they focused on the core area of the secret realm. There must be a lot of omissions in the periphery, which would allow many cultivators who went to explore to get good opportunities. These casual cultivators who were discussing only noticed that some cultivators had obtained opportunities, but did not think about how many white bones were underneath, and how many cultivators died at the hands of monsters, evil spirits, and their own kind. Suddenly, a whistling sound came from his ears. Lu Xuan looked up and saw a bright sword light passing through the market, like a long rainbow piercing the sun, disappearing in the distance in the blink of an eye. The opening of the new secret realm has made the market more and more restless. It is said that some disciples from the surrounding sects have come to explore and train. Lu Xuan learned a lot of information from the discussions around him. He came to a shop that specializes in selling monster materials, young beasts, and monster eggs. Daoyao, do you have any water attributed young beasts for sale? It's best if they're edible. Lu Xuan asked the shop owner. The shop owner was a thin young man who greeted Lu Xuan warmly. Young water type beasts. There are several types in the store. Do you want first grade or non-grade ones? First grade ones, I guess. The 3 red-bearded carps that I bought before were delicious, but of a lower grade. If I raise them again, the reward from the white light ball will probably be useless when they mature. So Lu Xuan had the idea of raising a first grade monster. First grade water type monsters, and they must have delicious meat. There are only a few iron claw crabs in the store that can meet your requirements. Please come and take a look with me. The thin young man thought for a while and took Lu Xuan to a pool. In the pool, there were 7 or 8 crabs the size of a baby's head. This is an iron claw crab, a first grade monster. When it matures, the crab roe is plump and fragrant, and the crab meat is delicious. It can be called a delicacy on Earth. But this iron claw crab is as its name suggests. It has a pair of sharp claws and is extremely aggressive. However, if you raise it yourself, you can still control it well with your cultivation level of the middle stage of key training. Lu Xuan nodded and looked at the pool. The young iron claw crabs in the pool were already as big as a baby's head. Their shells were dark blue, and their eyeballs were protruding and spinning. One of the crabs noticed Lu Xuan's gaze and raised its claws like swords, waving them towards Lu Xuan, full of provocation. A smile appeared on Lu Xuan's lips. I just like your unruly look. He turned his head and looked at the thin young man and asked, how many spirit stones are these young iron claw crabs? 23 spirit stones for 1. I want 4. How about 18 spirit stones for 1? Although Lu Xuan's wealth had increased a lot, he still maintained his good habit of thriftiness and cut off a lot of pieces. After some bargaining, he finally bought 4 young iron claw crabs at the price of 20 spirit stones each. Please help me pick this one first. Lu Xuan pointed to the iron claw crab that had been showing off to him not long ago and said to the young man. Chapter 84, A Hard Clamp. The thin young man took out 4 young iron claw crabs from the pool with a sturdy small wooden barrel and sealed the mouth of the barrel, leaving only a few small holes for ventilation. Lu Xuan handed him 80 spirit stones, took the wooden barrel, and walked home. On the way, clanging sounds came from the wooden barrel from time to time, and the several iron claw crabs inside were struggling. Half a moment later, they returned home, and the cloud stepping lynx jumped off Lu Xuan's shoulder and entered the spiritual field gracefully. Lu Xuan brought the wooden barrel to the edge of the spiritual spring pool, opened the closed wooden board, and the most arrogant one jumped out with a pair of claws like a big knife, showing off to Lu Xuan, as if resisting being locked in a closed wooden barrel. The other 3 followed closely behind, lined up in a row, each arrogant and domineering. On the inside of the wooden barrel, there were traces of varying depths, which showed how powerful the claws of this first grade iron claw crab were. I leave it to you. First, tame them well, and let them know the rules of Lu's residence. Lu Xuan said to the stepping cloud lynx beside him. The stepping cloud lynx walked slowly and gracefully to the 4 iron claw crabs. The iron claw crabs were not afraid at all. They raised a pair of blue-black claws that were longer than their bodies and rushed directly to the white cloud paws of the stepping cloud lynx and clamped them fiercely. The stepping cloud lynx slapped its paws and knocked the most arrogant iron claw crab cub to the ground. The other 3 iron claw crabs surrounded and clamped the paws of the stepping cloud lynx with short tails. The lynx jumped lightly and got out of the siege of the 4 iron claw crab cubs. Its paws took turns to slap the crab shells and subdued them one by one. The 4 iron claw crab cubs finally realized their situation and lay on the ground obediently. Only the rolling eyeballs on their heads showed that they were actually dishonest. Lu Xuan picked up the motionless young iron claw crab and threw it into the spiritual spring pool. After being nourished by the pure spiritual spring, the young iron claw crab instantly became active and crawled around in the spiritual spring pool. Lu Xuan focused his mind on them, and a thought flashed through his mind. Iron claw crab, a first-class demon beast, is highly aggressive, with hard and sharp claws. After it grows up, the crab shell can be used to refine defensive magic tools. Omnivorous demon beast, can be raised with demon beast meat, spiritual rice, water plants, etc. Rampant and domineering, nothing it won't catch. Information about the iron claw crab flooded into Lu Xuan's mind. Nothing it won't catch. If you dare to catch my pure snow lotus, I'll kill you. Lu Xuan snorted coldly and used the earth attraction technique to control the mud at the bottom of the spiritual spring pool and surround the pure snow lotus high. After getting familiar with the environment of the spiritual spring pool, the most active young iron claw crab began to become restless, with a pair of claws clinging to the stone wall of the spiritual spring pool and slowly climbing up. If you are so dishonest, you will escape from prison sooner or later. Lu Xuan called the grass puppet over and ordered, when you patrol the spiritual field in the future, come to the spiritual spring pool more often. If you see any iron claw crabs crawling out, throw them back into the spiritual spring pool. The grass puppet's head had returned to its original state at this time, and the huge grey grass head nodded, indicating that it was waiting for instructions. As night fell, at the edge of the spiritual spring pool, a young iron claw crab struggled to climb up from the stone wall of the spiritual spring pool, crossed the edge, and came to the shore. A pair of bulging eyeballs rolled around, observing the surrounding situation in the dim night. Nothing unusual happened. The strange beast that tortured itself to death during the day had disappeared without a trace. After finding that the situation was good, the young iron claw crab's eyes moved faster and became obviously excited. It crawled on the ground quickly, trying to find an exit. Suddenly, a grey-black grass rope came silently behind the young animal and penetrated from under its abdomen. The young iron claw crab noticed something was wrong and kept adjusting its pace, holding its claws high, trying to cut the attacker in half. Although the grey-black grass rope was slow, it was always hidden behind the young animal and occasionally circled around the crab's feet. Soon, the young iron claw crab was tied up with the grey-black grass rope. The grass puppet, with its huge head, slowly retracted the grey-black grass rope and came to the young animal. A short section of the grass rope was left, just enough to hold it in its hand. It came to the edge of the spiritual spring pool, stretched out its arms, and the grey-black grass rope continued to spread. After reaching the center of the spiritual spring pool, the grey-black grass rope that bound the young iron claw crab was instantly loosened. With a snap, the young animal fell into the spiritual spring pool, and the splashing water fell on the white lotus surrounded by the earth wall, and then rolled down from the lotus leaves. The next morning, Lu Xuan got up early and started a new day as a spiritual plant master. He first checked the spiritual field and performed the spiritual rain technique and wood growth technique according to the growth status of the spiritual plants. After finishing all this, he went to the house and grabbed a handful of spiritual rice and sprinkled it into the spiritual spring pool. The spiritual rice fell to the bottom of the pool and attracted the attention of 4 young iron claw crabs. After tossing and turning all night, they raised their claws and very skillfully picked up the full grains of spiritual rice and stuffed them into their mouths. If you are so good at picking up, I'll find something for you to do. After the young iron claw crabs had eaten and drunk enough, Lu Xuan looked at the pair of hard claws that were like big knives, and his heart moved. He took out the most arrogant young iron claw crab from the spiritual spring pool and took out a fist-sized piece of fine iron ore from the storage bag and put it under its claws. Seeing something coming forward, the young iron claw crab immediately opened its claws, clamped the fine iron ore up and down, and exerted force hard, and the hard ore was immediately split into 2. Continue. Lu Xuan took one of the pieces and put it under the claws of the iron claw crab again. The young iron claw crab clamped the ore hard again. Come again. Lu Xuan took another piece. This cycle repeats itself, and a fist-sized piece of fine iron ore turns into hundreds of pieces of gravel. The edges of the pair of claws of the iron crab are constantly exerting force, and it has begun to turn white. However, when Lu Xuan put the ore under the claws, it couldn't help but want to pinch it off. Haha, come again. Lu Xuan laughed loudly, and with a move of spiritual power, a small pile of fine iron ore appeared in front of the young beast, piled high. The claws of the young iron crab couldn't help but tremble. Lu Xuan took out another 3 young iron crabs from the spiritual spring pool and let them start to work. The broken copper iron ore needed by the copper bone bamboo has finally been solved well. With these young iron crabs, I basically don't have to do it myself. Lu Xuan thought happily that the copper bone bamboo needs copper iron ore for rapid growth. The smaller the ore, the easier it is to absorb. Lu Xuan used to use the silver breaking blade and red thread needle to cut the ore, which was time consuming and laborious. Now, it's much easier. He looked at the young iron crab that was still insisting on pinching off the ore and sighed. Don't relax, clamp hard, clamp 100 times, or 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Only in this way can you break your limit, and your claws will be fully exercised. When you become strong, you can also swing them at me. Whenever a young beast relaxed, Lu Xuan would urge them on. The sound of claws clamping the fine iron ore continued to come, which was pleasant to the ears. Chapter 85 Hidden Spirit Cloak. After the 4 young iron claw crabs were exhausted, and their claws were weak, Lu Xuan reluctantly let them rest for a while. He threw them into the spiritual spring pool, and threw in a handful of spiritual rice as a reward. These iron claw crabs are much more energetic than red-bearded carps. It's good to find something for them to do to kill their energy. Lu Xuan smiled and looked at the young iron claw crabs that were so tired that they lay motionless at the bottom of the spiritual spring pool, thinking secretly. He sprinkled the fine iron ore near the copper bone bamboo and let them absorb it to their heart's content. When he came to the 4 blood jade ginsengs for seed, it was like the thin skin outside the stone wrapped jade thing. As the ginseng seeds grew larger, there was a feeling that they were about to burst. Lu Xuan quickly peeled off the spiritual seeds condensed from the 4 blood jade ginsengs, processed them a little, and put them in a special jade box. There were 28 spiritual seeds condensed from the 4 blood jade ginsengs, each of which was plump, like blood jade. What made Lu Xuan a little disappointed was that he did not get the light ball reward when he picked the blood jade ginseng after it condensed into spirit seeds. Perhaps it is because when condensing the spirit seeds, a large amount of plant spirit power of the mature blood jade ginseng is consumed, making it ineffective and unable to be picked in a normal state, so there is no light ball reward. Lu Xuan guessed, but he was already quite satisfied to get 28 blood jade ginseng spirit seeds. What made him even more satisfied was still to come. When he went to check the growth of the 2nd grade dark marrow Ganoderma, Lu Xuan unexpectedly found that it had entered the fully mature stage. After more than a year of careful cultivation, I finally successfully planted the first 2nd grade spirit plant. Lu Xuan was filled with emotion. The growth cycle of non-grade spirit plants varies from several months. The 1st grade spirit plant is about 1 year, and the 2nd grade spirit plant is about 2 years. As early as when he was in the small courtyard in the northern district of Fangxi, he had already planted the dark marrow Ganoderma and sword grass. He moved to the new courtyard for more than a year, and with his careful cultivation, the wood growth technique of the small success realm accelerated its growth to a certain extent, and finally cultivated it to maturity. In the dense dark red hyphae, the dark marrow Ganoderma plants were hidden, and the dark red viscous liquid flowed in the channels like blood vessels. Lu Xuan focused his mind on the mature dark marrow Ganoderma and immediately knew that it was of good quality. The concentration of spiritual energy in the spiritual field is average, and the dark marrow Ganoderma is extremely afraid of light, which cannot be completely avoided. In addition, it is difficult to obtain high quality rotten spiritual wood. Under such conditions, it is already quite difficult to cultivate a good 2nd grade spiritual plant. Lu Xuan sighed. His spiritual power passed through countless dark red hyphae, and the dark red hyphae seemed to be stimulated and automatically split to both sides, revealing the dark marrow Ganoderma body inside. Lu Xuan carefully picked it off, immediately put it into a wooden box, wrapped in black cloth, and put it into the storage bag. The 2nd grade dark marrow Ganoderma can be used to refine certain body refining pills, or it can be taken directly to enhance the physique of the cultivator. Lu Xuan has not yet decided how to use it. At this moment, he focuses on the light ball reward brought by the dark marrow Ganoderma. Lu Xuan looked at the location of the dark marrow in the wooden shed with expectation. A fist-sized white light ball was flickering slightly. He gently stretched out his hand and touched the surface of the light ball. In an instant, countless fine light spots flowed into Lu Xuan's body like the Milky Way. A thought flashed through his mind. Harvest a dark marrow and obtain the 3rd grade magic weapon Yunling Cloak. As the thought passed, a piece of clothing as thin as a cicada's wing appeared in his hand. The clothing was dark gold, and from time to time, almost transparent silk threads emerged from the surface and disappeared in a flash. Yinling Cloak, a third-grade magic weapon, can converge and hide the breath and spiritual power of the cultivator. When the spiritual power is running, the cultivator can activate the magic weapon and hide his body. The hiding time is short, and a lot of spiritual power will be consumed during the period. He can only move slowly, and his body will be revealed when attacked. Third-grade magic weapon. Lu Xuan was happy. This was the second third-grade treasure he got after the third-grade Immaculate Jade, and the effect is even better than that. Lu Xuan raised his cultivation to the 7th level of key training in a short period of time with ordinary qualifications, so he naturally did not dare to expose his true cultivation in a familiar environment. As his cultivation level became higher and higher, he met more and more high-level key training cultivators, and it was possible that he could not hide his breath. This hidden spirit cloak made up for this very well. It was a third-grade magic weapon, and it had already entered the scope of foundation building. Even if there were cultivators in the early or middle stages of foundation building who spied on it, it would be difficult to detect it. Lu Xuan immediately took off his clothes and put on the dark gold cloak, and spiritual power poured into the cloak. Suddenly, a huge suction force came from the inside of the hidden spirit cloak, and a large part of Lu Xuan's spiritual power disappeared instantly. The transparent silk thread on the dark gold cloak suddenly swam, and the speed became faster and faster. After a few moments, Lu Xuan felt that a thin layer of special substance suddenly covered his eyes. The world in his eyes had a vague sense of alienation and unreality. Lu Xuan came to the edge of the spiritual spring pool and looked down. In the spiritual spring pool, 4 young iron-clawed crabs were lying quietly at the bottom of the pool. The water was clear, and wisps of spiritual energy were rising. There was no reflection of Lu Xuan on the water. The stepping cloudlings not far away saw Lu Xuan suddenly disappear, and stood there in a daze. The green eyes rarely showed a trace of emotion, and looked around in confusion. "Ah!" It roared in a low voice, with urgency in its voice. Lu Xuan quickly withdrew from the invisible state, came to the stepping cloudlynx, and pulled the 2 tufts of grey hair on the tip of its ears. The stepping cloudlynx regained its elegant posture, looked at Lu Xuan coldly, and walked to the side. Lu Xuan summarized his feelings when using the third-grade hidden spirit cloak magic weapon. The magic weapon can cover the whole body, but the range is limited, confined to the body. The speed of spiritual power consumption is too fast. It is still a bit difficult to drive the third-grade magic weapon in the foundation building stage with the 7th level cultivation of key training. However, the effect is quite good. It can hide my body and help me avoid some risks. Lu Xuan showed a smile at the corner of his mouth, and inexplicably felt that his behavior of hiding his body was somewhat familiar. "What transparent cultivation world?" he complained, and did not put away the hidden spirit cloak immediately, but put it on his body and covered it with a green shirt. The hidden spirit cloak was as thin as a cicada's wing and heavy as nothing. It was almost nothing to put it on. The 2nd grade dark marrow Ganoderma has matured, and the 2nd grade sword grass is probably about to mature. Lu Xuan looked at the 2nd grade sword grass that had its sword intent suppressed, and was plain and unpretentious, and thought to himself. At this moment, the sword grass was no different from an ordinary sword blade, about 3 feet long, black all over, standing straight, and the tip of the sword pierced the sky. Almost there, Lu Xuan's mind was focused on the sword grass. He looked forward to the progress bar below it, which was about to be filled. He inspected the spiritual field, and found that 120 spiritual firefly grasses in the spiritual firefly grass area had entered the rapid maturity stage. Lu Xuan searched carefully, and found 15 fully mature spiritual firefly grasses. Chapter 86, Zunlui Sword Bill. Among the 15 mature firefly grasses, 6 were of good quality, 7 were of superior quality, and the remaining 2 were of perfect quality. Lu Xuan put the 15 mature firefly grasses in a white jade box, and picked up the 15 white light balls that appeared one by one. Thoughts flashed through his mind. Harvest 1 firefly grass and gain 6 months of cultivation. Point right square bracket asterisk. 2. Harvest 1 firefly grass and gain 9 months of cultivation. Point right square bracket asterisk. 4. In an instant, waves of spiritual power surged into Lu Xuan's body, like surging waves, raging wildly between his dantian and tendons. After calming down, Lu Xuan felt that his cultivation level had increased a lot, and he was a long way closer to the 8th level of key training. The remaining 9 white light balls brought Lu Xuan 4 first grade talismans, including 2 first grade sword key talismans, 1 explosive flame talisman, and 1 exorcism talisman. In addition, there were 3 first grade Yuan pills, and Lu Xuan put them, and the Yuan pills he had obtained, before in a jade bottle. 2 second grade sword key talismans were opened from the light balls brought by the 2 perfect quality firefly grasses. At this time, he already had 7 second grade sword key talismans and dozens of first grade talismans of various types in his storage bag, which were placed in different categories. Lu Xuan counted and put away all the rewards, and then went back to the house to rest. He took out the book Common Spiritual Plants and Their Treatment Methods from the Red Clothed Girl to deepen his impression of various spiritual plants. After reading the book for a while, he got up to cook. Lunch was relatively simple. He steamed 2 bowls of spiritual rice, fried a portion of air-dried spiritual beast meat, and added a portion of cold spiritual fruit. 1 person and 1 lynx ate their own. The taste was average. Lu Xuan missed the red carp nourished by the spiritual spring he had eaten a while ago, and he couldn't help but look forward to the young iron claw crabs growing up quickly. After a short rest, he entered the spiritual field again. The iron claw crabs at the bottom of the spiritual spring pool have good recovery ability. With such kung fu, they have become lively again and crawl around at the bottom of the pool. One of them used its hard claws to cling to the surface of the stone wall of the pool, trying to flip over and get free. Lu Xuan couldn't help but feel relieved, and even had a thought of reflection. They recovered so quickly, was he not pushing them hard enough? He asked the cloud-stepping lynx to catch 4 young iron-clawed crabs from the spiritual spring pool. Before they could land in a good position, a piece of uneven fine iron ore was delivered to the claws of the young crabs. The young crabs seemed to have forgotten the lesson in the morning. They raised their blue-black claws high and fiercely clamped the ore handed over. Yes, that's it. Don't be discouraged. As long as you persist, you will handle all the ores. No, you will defeat the ore demon and make him unable to provoke you with ores again. Lu Xuan smiled slightly and changed to a more appropriate statement. After patrolling the spiritual field, when he passed the area where the sword grass was, he noticed that the progress bar below the sword grass had been pulled to the maximum and entered the fully mature stage. The quality is top notch. He carefully pulled out the sword grass, and suddenly, a thought emerged from his mind. Sword grass, a second grade spiritual plant, is shaped like a sword blade and is extremely sharp. It is a natural sword weapon. It can be used directly or used to refine a flying sword. What surprised Lu Xuan was that the part of the sword grass that grew on the outside was similar to a sword blade, and the rhizome buried in the spiritual soil was also closely related. When it was pulled out, it was not stained with any soil. There were shallow lines on the rhizome. When held in the hand, the feel was the same as when holding a flying sword. It is indeed a natural sword weapon. The more Lu Xuan looked at the sword grass, the more he liked it. The spirit firefly grass, eclipse moon fruit, blood jade ginseng, red cloud pine, etc. that he had planted before could only be used as materials after maturity, but this sword grass could be used directly as a sword weapon. He suppressed his inner joy, put away the sword grass, and moved his eyes to the place where the sword grass was planted. A white light ball was flickering slightly. Lu Xuan picked it up gently with anticipation, and suddenly, countless light points poured into his body. Or thought flashed through his mind. Harvest a blade of sword grass, and obtain a 3rd grade Zunli sword pill. A small ball appeared in his hand. The ball was the size of an egg, composed of countless fine sword ki. The sword light was swallowing and spitting, stretching, and contracting, with a black hurricane sweeping inside, and lightning appeared from time to time. Zunli sword pill, a 3rd grade treasure, is nurtured in the body of a cultivator, and can transform spiritual power into sword ki, split the sword light, and kill with great killing power. It can also be integrated into a sword. To warm up the sword and improve the grade of the sword, a large amount of sword ki will be consumed when splitting the sword light. After frequent use, the sword ki is scarce and spiritual power needs to be replenished in time. 3rd grade treasure, sword pill. Lu Xuan looked at the egg-sized sword pill in his hand and opened his mouth. Suddenly, the sword pill evolved into countless fine sword intentions and drilled into his throat. It turned into a sword pill again at the Danshan. Lu Xuan separated a wisp of spiritual power and probed into the inside of the sword pill. Suddenly, there seemed to be a strong black wind, lightning and thunder, and the sword light on the surface of the sword ball increased greatly, and the sword intent was filled. So this is how to nourish with spiritual power. Lu Xuan suddenly realized, opened his mouth and spit out. Countless subtle sword energy suddenly left the body and transformed into the shape of a sword ball in front of him. He controlled the sword ball to move in the air, and the speed was so fast that it formed a series of phantoms. With a thought, several sword lights extended from the small ball, surrounded by black air, cold air, and electric arcs jumped on the sword blade. In Lu Xuan's spiritual perception, these sword lights were sent and received at will. As soon as he had a thought in his mind, several sword lights whistled and shot towards the ground, and several dark holes appeared on the ground, which were bottomless. It is worthy of being a 3rd grade treasure that is good at killing. Lu Xuan was secretly amazed and marveled at the power of Zunli sword ball. It's just like the hidden spirit cloak. It consumes too much spiritual power. Even if it was fully nourished with spiritual power before, it still consumes a lot of spiritual power when it is used. Of course, this is not the shortcomings of the 3rd grade Zunli sword pill and the hidden spirit cloak, but my personal problem. Lu Xuan laughed at himself. He originally thought that his 7th level cultivation was already quite good, and he couldn't help but feel a little complacent in his heart. However, the appearance of these 2 3rd grade treasures made him seem stretched, and his spiritual power was unusable. Of course, this is just a happy trouble. With these 2 3rd grade treasures, he has a lot to rely on whether he is avoiding danger or facing a strong enemy. At present, the attack has the 3rd grade Zunli sword pill, the burning blood arrow secret art, the 2nd grade red needle magical instrument, and the 2nd grade sword grass. The auxiliary has the 3rd grade hidden spirit cloak and the 3rd grade immaculate jade. Only the defense is a little bit worse, with only the 1st grade defensive magic wood wall art and the 2nd grade defensive magic instrument red scale armor. However, even if there are only these 2 things, it can be regarded as outstanding among the key training cultivators. The appearance of 2 3rd grade treasures made Lu Xuan's strength soar instantly, and also made him more determined to cultivate in the future. Before there is a higher grade spiritual plant to replace the Lingyiang grass, plant Lingyiang grass on a large scale to increase cultivation. At the same time, plant and cultivate high grade spiritual plants as much as possible, not only for the value of the spiritual plants themselves, but more importantly, the rich light ball rewards brought by the spiritual plants after they mature. Quantity and quality, both hands must be grasped, both hands must be hard, and go hand in hand. Thank you all for your awards. 2 chapters are presented first, and there should be no less than 3 chapters later today. Please subscribe and vote for the monthly ticket. Chapter 87 Wang Family Invitation. The appearance of 2 3rd grade treasures, Hidden Spirit Cloak and Zunli Sword Pill, gave Lu Xuan more confidence, and made him full of motivation when cultivating spiritual plants. That day, a gentle voice suddenly came from outside the courtyard. Is fellow Daoist Lu here? Lu Xuan opened the courtyard door. There were 2 high-level key training cultivators standing outside the door. The leader was a refined scholar with a warm smile. The cultivator behind him had an ordinary appearance, with a centipede-like scar on his face, and a faint evil spirit emanating from his body. You are fellow Daoist Lu Xuan, right? The refined scholar said with a smile. It's me. Fellow Daoist Lu is younger than I thought. At such a young age, he has a very deep attainment in the field of spiritual plants. He has a bright future. Who are the 2 fellow Daoists? Lu Xuan asked in confusion. I'm Wang Ruhei, from the Liang Wang family. This is fellow Daoist Li Jianfeng, a guest of the Wang family. I came to fellow Daoist Lu this time to ask for something. I want to invite fellow Daoist Lu to visit the newly discovered secret realm. The refined scholar said with a smile. I have always lived in seclusion, I don't know how you two Daoists found this place. Lu Xuan frowned when he heard this. Daoist Lu is too modest. With your ability to cultivate spiritual plants, it is difficult for you to live in seclusion in the city. The Wang family was looking for a spiritual plant master in the market and accidentally learned from an alchemist in Baikao that Daoist Lu was an expert in spiritual plants, so they came directly to invite him. The elegant scholar explained. Lu Xuan sighed in his heart when he heard this. The alchemist in Baikao recommended him to the Wang family, perhaps to sell himself to the Wang family, or to value him and seek benefits for himself, but no matter what the purpose was, it was contrary to his original intention. As far as I know, the Wang family has basically mastered the new secret realm. Is there any place where they need spiritual plant masters? The family found a strange place in the secret realm, where many strange second-grade spiritual plants grow, but they are mixed with some evil plants, and their appearance is difficult to identify. At the same time, there are strange insects parasitizing them, so some high-level spiritual plant masters are needed to identify, separate, remove insects, and pick them. Lu Xuan nodded, pretending to ponder, with a trace of hesitation on his face. Thank you for the Wang family's appreciation, but I'm just a self-cultivating spiritual plant master who was born in the wild. My cultivation is low, and I'm afraid it will be difficult to. Fellow Daoist Lu, are you going to refuse the invitation of the Wang family? The elegant scholar Wang Ruhei interrupted him directly, with a hint of pressure in his tone. As a high-level key training cultivator in the Wang family, who is in charge of Lanyang market, he usually has the final say and no one dares to object. Seeing Lu Xuan's solemn expression, he slowed down his tone. Fellow Daoist Lu, don't worry about safety. The destination is in the middle area of the secret realm. The monsters and evil spirits inside have been cleared out, and there are at least 2 high-level key training monks to escort you. Moreover, many of the spiritual plant masters invited this time are from big families and powerful forces in the market. If a few of them are accidentally killed, the Wang family will not be able to explain. Wang Ruhei seemed to see the reason for Lu Xuan's hesitation, and directly assured Lu Xuan of the safety of this trip. Let me go into the house to think about it, Lu Xuan said. Okay, then the 2 of us will wait here for fellow Daoist Lu's reply. Wang Ruhei stood outside the door, looking like he would not give up, until Lu Xuan replied. Lu Xuan returned to the house with an uncertain look. The Wang family invited him to enter the secret realm, to pick spiritual plants in special states. There were only 2 choices before him, not to go, or to go. If he didn't go, he would definitely be at odds with the Wang family, and lose face for the Wang family. As a casual cultivator, it would be difficult for him to stay in the market. And more importantly, there were 2 high-level key training monks waiting outside the courtyard. If he wanted to get out of this, he could either flee silently, or kill the 2. The former was feasible, after he had the hidden spirit cloak, but the chances were not very high. After all, his key training level of the 7th level could only be maintained for a short period of time, and he moved slowly during this period. He was in a busy city, and when his spiritual power was exhausted, he might be discovered by the 2 people with higher key training levels. As for dealing with the 2, Lu Xuan was confident that he had many treasures in his hands, and defeating the 2 was not a problem, but this was far from enough. He had to kill the 2 instantly with the force of thunder, and at the same time, he couldn't make too much noise. He was also not very sure. If we go, if it's really as the Wang family cultivator said, just going to the middle area of the secret realm, to deal with the spiritual plants, then it shouldn't be a big problem. There are also spiritual plant masters from other family forces in the same group. If something really happens, it will be difficult for them to end it. The balance in Lu Xuan's heart was gradually tilting. After entering the secret realm, you must not cause trouble, do not fight, do not approach the core area of the secret realm, and do not fight to the death with other cultivators for a little resource. But you can't restrain yourself too much. If you really encounter something, it's not my thing to forcibly endure it. Lu Xuan has his own set of rules in his mind, and secretly admonishes himself. He has a high-level cultivation of key training, the Zhengjin sword out of the Grandmaster realm, the 2nd grade magic weapon red thread needle, red scale armor, sword grass, 2nd grade talisman, 3rd grade immaculate jade. hidden spirit cloak, Zunlui sword pill, and burning blood arrow secret art. With all kinds of magic and treasures, Lu Xuan is full of confidence. Then I will go to the secret realm as a well-known spiritual plant master in Linyang market. He came to the spiritual field and looked around at the many spiritual plants. With a thought, he quickly picked the remaining 95 spiritual fireflies. There was no need to worry about others seeing the white light balls. The talisman and elixir rewards that appeared were collected by Lu Xuan in a very hidden storage bag, and his cultivation level was directly improved. The fluctuation of spiritual power was covered by the hidden spirit cloak. Since it was not the most suitable time yet, the quality of these spiritual fireflies was mainly ordinary and good. Lu Xuan did not care at all. After all, he did not know when he would return this time, so he might as well pick them in advance and increase his strength a little bit. 95 light balls brought more than 10 years of cultivation rewards. Lu Xuan broke through to the 8th level of key training. At the same time, there were dozens of first grade talismans of various types, more than 10 pills of peon, and more than 10 wood growing techniques and earth inducing techniques experience packs. The remaining spiritual plants, the 3rd grade spiritual plants, were too precious, so Lu Xuan transplanted the Jiao vine and the Huana and Luo fruit, and put them in the Sheng Sheng bag to maintain their vitality. As for the remaining 1st grade and 2nd grade spiritual plants such as the Jingsulian and Tanguzhu, they were still left in the spiritual field. Do you want to go out with me? If you go out, you may have to stay in the life bag more often. He asked the stepping cloud lynx at his feet. The lynx cub nodded without hesitation and was sent by Lu Xuan into the grey black cloth bag that made it feel extremely uncomfortable. During the time I am away, I'll trouble you to take good care of the spiritual field. Remember not to let those iron claw crabs escape. Lu Xuan stuffed 3 spirit stones into the huge tumor on the head of the straw puppet. With his mind focused, the straw puppet kept repeating his order. He felt a little relieved and sent another sound transmission note asking Manager He to come to the yard more often. The mist hiding maze was opened and thick white fog enveloped the yard. Lu Xuan walked out of the courtyard and nodded gently to Wang Ruhei and the other person who were waiting outside the door. Please take good care of me, fellow Taoists. Chapter 88 Dragonbeard Grass. In the sky, mountains and rivers passed by Lu Xuan's feet rapidly. At this moment, he was sitting on a huge black eagle. The eagle's body was 30 or 4 feet long, with wings spread over 10 feet. Its wings were covered with dark black feathers like sword blades, and it was extremely fast. The 2nd grade demon beast iron feather eagle was raised by the Wan family. Lu Xuan had seen a 3rd grade iron feather eagle in the market, which was more than twice as large as this one. The iron feather eagle was surrounded by an aura shield to block the bayonet like strong wind in the sky. The giant eagle flew very steadily, and there was no bump on its back. Including the 2 high-level key training monks of the Wan family, there were nearly 20 people sitting on the eagle's back. Dao Lu, I didn't expect to meet you here. A monk with a simple face slowly moved to Lu Xuan's side. What a nice fellow monk, Lu Xuan said with a smile. The cultivator's name is Heaping, a spiritual plant master. Lu Xuan had met him once in Beiqiaotang. It is said that he is related to the foundation building alchemist and manages a medicine garden for Beiqiaotang. Among the cultivators who went to the secret realm to help the Wan family deal with spiritual plants, there are a total of 15 spiritual plant masters, including Lu Xuan, 3 of whom are closely related to Beiqiaotang. Lu Xuan observed a little bit and found that most of the 15 spiritual plant masters were in the middle stage of key training, and only one old man had a high level key training. At least on the surface. I just saw you observing others. I guess brother Lu may not be familiar with the spiritual plant masters present. Do you want me to introduce them to you? Heaping said with a smile. Then I'll trouble brother He. Lu Xuan just wanted it. These more than 10 people have outstanding skills in planting spiritual plants, so they were invited by the Wan family. The old man with a high level of key training, who is in the lead, belongs to the Wan family. Heaping introduced them one by one. It was indeed as Wang Ruhei said before. Most of the more than 10 spiritual plant masters had extraordinary origins, and Lu Xuan felt a little relieved. Fellow Daoist, can you tell me about the secret realm? Lu Xuan asked. Fellow Daoist, have you never entered a secret realm? Heaping asked with a strange look in his eyes. To be honest, I really haven't. Lu Xuan said frankly. Because of my ordinary cultivation, I'm not good at fighting, and I'm afraid of death. So I gave up the idea of entering the secret realm to explore opportunities, and devoted myself to cultivating spiritual plants. Fellow Daoist Lu must have given up these things, so that he can have cultivation skills that surpass others at such a young age. Heaping straightened his face. Secret realms mainly come from two sources. One is left over from ancient times. This kind may bring great opportunities, but it also hides huge risks. The other kind is ingenious, formed by chance, and it is a world of its own. If it has been born not long ago, it usually has a lot of cultivation resources, but there are also many monsters and evil spirits. Opportunities and risks coexist. The second kind we are going to enter this time. Heaping said endlessly. Half a day later, the iron feather eagle slowly landed in a valley. A Xuan family cultivator was waiting nearby. When he saw the iron feather eagle fold its wings and walk over with a large piece of monster meat, this is the edge of the secret realm. Next, fellow Daoist Li Jianfeng, and I will take you to your destination. The elegant scholar Wang Ruhei said with a smile. Lu Xuan looked around curiously. There were towering mountains and trees. His spiritual consciousness could feel that it was obscured by some unknown spiritual power. This valley was the Xuan family's stronghold. If other cultivators wanted to enter the secret realm, they had to find another way to enter. At Wang Ruhei's signal, a cultivator of the middle stage of key training came out and used a magic mirror to open the restriction outside the secret realm. The spiritual energy surged, and a small door that could accommodate 2 people appeared in front of everyone. Lu Xuan and other spiritual plant masters followed the 2 Xuan family members and entered one after another. In a trance, Lu Xuan came to a strange space. It was a barren land. There were a few strange plants growing on the black and red soil. The sky was dark and gloomy. This is the outer edge of the secret realm. Let's speed up and go directly to the destination. Li Jianfeng, who had been silent all the time, said in a deep voice, and his figure shot into the distance like an arrow from a string. More than a dozen spiritual plant masters either used their body skills or activated their magic tools to follow closely behind him. Lu Xuan also pasted 2 swift charms on his legs and was in the middle of the crowd. Along the way, the barren land gradually came to life. As he entered the deeper into the secret realm, Lu Xuan began to find traces of cultivators. However, seeing that there were so many people on their side and there were high-level cultivators leading the team, the casual cultivators encountered in the outer edge of the secret realm were like frightened birds and left in a hurry. After more than half an hour, Lu Xuan and his party came to a mountain with strange rocks. After circling around among the strange rocks, they finally arrived at the destination. This is it. Wang Ruhei pointed to the mountainside and said. On the mountainside, many strange black and red rocks were covered with inconspicuous dark red grass. They were about 2 feet long, towering on the surface of the rock wall, with curved shapes and extremely thin tops, growing densely together, like a bunch of strange tentacles. Dragonbeard grass is a second-grade spiritual plant. However, under the influence of the special environment of the secret realm, the dragonbeard grass here has undergone some kind of mutation. Many dark red long whiskers are somewhat aggressive. It is no different from normal dragonbeard grass at ordinary times, but it will suddenly attack cultivators when or after picking. The attack intensity is not great, probably equivalent to a cultivator of the 2nd or 3rd level of key training, but because it is mixed in the dragonbeard grass after picking, it often damages normal spiritual plants, which is very annoying. Moreover, there are also some strange components in the normal dragonbeard grass, which are integrated into the plant and difficult to detect and separate, making it difficult for 2nd-grade spiritual plants to have corresponding value. Therefore, we need to rely on all the spiritual plant masters, with the help of your experience and knowledge in cultivating spiritual plants, to identify the mutated dragonbeard grass, and separate the things inside the normal dragonbeard grass. Pick it carefully, and hand it over to us. Here are 100 spiritual stones as part of the prepayment. After leaving the secret realm, there will be a large number of spiritual stones and spiritual medicines to thank you. The spiritual plant master who handles the most dragonbeard grass will also receive generous additional rewards. Xuan Ruhei took out a large amount of spirit stones from his storage bag, divided them into 15 small piles, and floated them in front of Lu Xuan and others. 100 spirit stones are worth between the first grade and second grade magic tools, which is not bad. Lu Xuan accepted the 100 spirit stones with a smile and put them into his storage bag. However, it is not worth it for me to take risks. I can just follow other spirit plant masters and fish. Lu Xuan thought secretly. Several mid-level key training cultivators from the Xuan family began to build a camp. Among the spirit plant masters, some have already walked to the dragon beard grass, holding up the shield magic tool and carefully observing the dragon beard grass. There are also a few people who gathered together and whispered about how to identify the normal dragon beard grass. Lu Xuan followed behind these people, nodding and agreeing from time to time, looking at the several spirit plant masters who had already gone deep into the dragon beard grass territory, and curled his lips. 100 spirit stones, what are you risking your life for? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89, Ghost Face Mushroom. Lu Xuan did not want to rush to the front, but planned to follow the crowd. He would join the group only after the first spiritual plant master who had contact with the dragon beard grass had tested and understood it. During the discussion, Lu Xuan listened to the spiritual plant masters talking and coming up with various ideas. He also gained some insights by analogy. This was a pleasant surprise. Suddenly, he saw a dark red snake-like beard suddenly emerged from a pile of dragon beard grass in the distance and attacked a nearby spiritual plant master. With a jingling sound, the snake's beard was blocked by a shield magic weapon, and a black flying sword bypassed it and split it in two. As the spiritual plant master was well prepared, the attack of the mutated dragon beard grass did not cause any damage, but was just a false alarm. After the spiritual plant master was hit, he looked at the small pile of dragon beard grass at his feet and saw that it had also changed, as if every dragon beard grass could suddenly attack. Half an hour later, from time to time, there were cultivators who were suddenly attacked by the mutated dragon beard grass. Fortunately, they were all careful and the attack ability of the mutated dragon beard grass was weakened, and there were no casualties for the time being. However, many spiritual plant masters were still at a loss as to how to distinguish normal and mutated dragon beard grass, and there was no progress. I don't know if we can find a way to distinguish and separate normal dragon beard grass. On a protruding boulder, Xuan Ruhei and Li Jianfeng clasped their hands in front of their chests, taking in the figures of more than a dozen spiritual plant masters. Maybe, Li Jianfeng said lightly. There is still a lot of hope. After all, these are the top spiritual plant masters in Linyang Market. If they can't find it, then there is really no other way. It would be a pity if so many second grade spiritual plants were wasted. Li Jianfeng nodded gently to express his agreement. After waiting for a while, seeing no movement, the elegant scholar Xuan Ruhei stretched and said with a smile, Jianfeng, you stay here. I'll look around to see if I can find a few spiritual medicines. If there are any evil beasts, I'll clean them up. These spiritual plant masters are all mid-level key training masters, and they haven't experienced any life and death trials. I don't think they can make any waves. It's enough for you to stay here alone. After saying that, he rode a golden flying sword and flew away quickly. After listening to the discussion and observing secretly, Lu Xuan finally started to practice and came to the 3 dragon beard grasses. It is not difficult to pick dragon beard grasses. As long as the earth drawing technique reaches a proficient level, it can be picked relatively easily. Basically, all the spiritual plant masters present can do it. The difficulty lies in how to identify the difference between normal and mutated dragon beard grasses, and to separate the unknown objects inside normal dragon beard grasses. If you can't identify them, picking mutated dragon beard grasses and putting them together with normal ones will damage normal spiritual plants when a riot occurs. If they can't separate them, it will affect the quality of dragon beard grasses and make their value lower. He kept his spiritual power running, put his spiritual consciousness to the maximum, and carefully observed the 3 dragonbeard grasses in front of him. From the outside, the 3 dragonbeard grasses were not much different. At most they were slightly different in length and width. He probed into the dragonbeard grass with his spiritual sense, and found that there were many thin and long hairs growing inside, which were grayish white, and ran through the whole dragonbeard grass. Which of these grayish white hairs are normal, and which are abnormal? Xuan was cautious, and checked the 3 dragonbeard grasses, but found nothing abnormal. I wonder what will happen if I pick it and plant it? An idea suddenly popped up in Xuan's mind. He used the earth drawing technique to carefully separate the roots of the dragonbeard grass from the soil, and then picked it. Then put it back into the crack. Dao, what is your intention? Heaping saw Xuan's strange behavior, and couldn't help asking. I just want to do an experiment, to confirm a guess in my mind. Xuan answered, his mind focused on the replanted dragonbeard grass. Sure enough, an idea came to his mind. Dragonbeard grass, a 2nd grade spiritual plant, grows in a strange rock environment. When it matures, it can be used to refine healing pills. During the process of mutation, the silk inside the spiritual plant is quietly undergoing some changes. When stimulated by fire and ice magic in turn, the mutant silk will have a slight reaction. It takes ice and fire to react. It's normal. The thought flashed through his mind, and Xuan suddenly realized it inside secretly. He picked up the remaining dragonbeard grass, and then replanted it in the crack. A thought emerged. Mutated dragonbeard grass, a 2nd grade spiritual plant, has a certain degree of aggressiveness, and is good at camouflage. It is almost the same as normal dragonbeard grass. Find a mutant. Xuan held the silver-white short blade, guarding against the possible attack of the newly planted mutant dragonbeard grass. It's disguised quite well. After waiting for a while, the mutant dragonbeard grass did not react at all, and did not move, as if Xuan had made a wrong judgment. Then you continue to pretend. I won't accompany you. Xuan walked to the side, squatted in front of a few dragonbeard grasses, pretending to concentrate on research. It turns out that, as long as you plant the spiritual plant yourself, you can sense its immediate status and detailed information. That's right. I only rented the 2 spiritual fields in the market, and didn't have the ownership. It's understandable that I could find out the status of the planted dragonbeard grass. But this kind of spiritual plant planted halfway should not have a light ball reward, just like the diseased spiritual plant I got before, and the 4 blood jade ginsengs that were left for seeds. You must plant the spiritual seeds or seedlings yourself, cultivate them carefully, and pick them in time after they mature. Then you will get a light ball reward. However, it's quite good to be able to discover the mystery of this dragonbeard grass. Xuan sighed. He did not tell the Xuan family cultivator about his discovery, but pretended to perform the spiritual rain technique, wood growth technique, etc., just like other spiritual plant masters around him. During this period, if he found other plants, he would dig them out, and then plant them casually, to learn the detailed information of the plants. Unfortunately, he did not find any rare spiritual plants. What is this? Suddenly, he found a mushroom-shaped stone under a strange rock. The stone is grayish white, hard in texture, with many strange patterns on the white top. When combined together, it seems to form a weird face, looking like it is ready to eat people. Grow it and see. Seeing that it is similar in shape to a mushroom, and has a strange appearance, Xuan came up with the idea of planting it. He performed the earth drawing technique, and the stone buried in the soil quietly cracked, leaving a crack that just accommodated the mushroom stone. His mind was focused on it, and a thought emerged from his mind. Xuan suppressed his inner surprise, and digested and absorbed the thought. Ghost face stone mushroom, a 3rd grade spiritual plant, can increase the speed of practicing certain evil arts when mature. It feeds on resentful souls, and is in a dormant state. It needs to be awakened by the pills made by crushing resentful souls. Continue to ask for monthly tickets. Chapter 90, Junk. A 3rd grade spiritual seed. Xuan almost exclaimed, and hurriedly hid the joy on his face. He didn't expect that such a strange stone picked up in the secret realm, after being bored and planted, turned out to be a 3rd grade spiritual seed that entered a dormant state. You know, among the spiritual plants he has planted so far, only the phantom smoke luo fruit and the jiaoteng are at the 3rd grade stage, and they were all obtained through abnormal channels. The ghost-faced stone mushroom feeds on resentful souls. Whether it is the name or the planting method, it sounds quite underworld. However, in front of the 3rd grade, underworld or not is completely unimportant. He was about to put the ghost-faced stone mushroom into the storage bag, but suddenly his movements froze. He retracted his arm and pretended to look around casually. More than a dozen spiritual plant masters were looking for ways to distinguish normal dragonbeard grass. 3 of them were near Xuan, the 2 high-level key training cultivators of the Xuan family, and only Li Jianfeng, who had a centipede scar on his face, stood high above and overlooked everyone. Xuan knew that these 2 people were nominally escorting more than 10 spiritual plant masters, but in fact they were also monitoring them to prevent the spiritual plant masters from embezzling and stealing the 2nd grade dragonbeard grass on the mountainside. Thinking of this, Xuan ignored the ghost-faced stone mushroom in the crack and walked to the side. Under the pretext of looking for normal dragonbeard grass, he searched around to see if he could find new ghost-faced stone mushrooms. To his surprise, after a while, he found 2 more ghost-faced stone mushrooms. After trying to plant them, he found that they were in a dormant state like the ones he found before, and needed to be awakened by the resentful spirit. Xuan felt that something was wrong. Logically speaking, the location of the ghost-faced stone mushroom is not hidden, and the Xuan family cultivators and spiritual plant masters have been in this area for an unknown period of time. It is impossible that they have not found the ghost-faced stone mushrooms. Why are they still there now? There is only one possibility. The Xuan family cultivators don't know what this stone with the strange face is. The more than 10 spiritual plant masters present probably thought so too. The more Xuan thought about it, the more possible it was, and he came up with a plan. Huh? What is this? Why does it look so weird? He suddenly exclaimed and picked the ghost-faced stone mushroom from the crack. The spiritual plant master next to him looked over curiously, and the scarred monk Li Jianfeng not far away also looked at Xuan. Xuan held the ghost-faced stone mushroom and jumped a few times to come in front of Li Jianfeng. Dao Li, this is a strange thing I found in the process of identifying the dragonbeard grass. It seems to have a strange face. The secret realm was discovered and cultivated by the Xuan family. The dragonbeard grass here also belongs to the Xuan family. Therefore, I decided to dedicate it to the Xuan family. Li Jianfeng looked at the ghost-faced stone mushroom in Xuan's hand and said lightly, "It's just a piece of stone that looks weird." The Xuan family monks discovered the existence of this strange stone as early as when they entered this place. At first, they thought it was a rare treasure. They took a few pieces back to the Xuan family and studied them carefully for a while. They even asked a monk who specialized in identifying various treasures in Wanbao Tower to examine it, but they didn't find any mystery. In addition, the ghost-faced stone mushrooms are different from normal spiritual plants and seeds. When they enter a dormant state, there is no spiritual fluctuation, and they are no different from other stones on the mountainside. Therefore, the Xuan family monks gradually lost their curiosity and just regarded them as stones with strange shapes. I see. I thought it was a good treasure. It turned out to be a rag. Hearing this, Xuan could not hide his disappointment on his face and threw the ghost-faced stone mushroom in his hand to the ground casually. The strange stone rolled on the ground, revealing its terrifying face composed of strange patterns from time to time. The spiritual plant masters who pricked up their ears and listened around continued to be busy identifying the dragonbeard grass. After a whole afternoon, the progress was slow, and no good way to distinguish the normal dragonbeard grass from the mutated dragonbeard grass was found. During this period, there were also spiritual plant masters who constantly used various spiritual plant cultivation techniques to stimulate and find some mutated longbeards that tried to attack. But this method consumes a lot of spiritual power, and there is no guarantee whether there are still mutated dragonbeard grass hiding itself. Near dusk, the elegant scholar Wang Ruhei, who had been out for half a day, returned to the camp, holding a wolf-like monster corpse in his hand. "How is it? Have you found any effective means?" Li Jianfeng shook his head and looked at the monster corpse in his hand. I found a second grade monster when I went out, and I dealt with it. I also found several first grade spiritual plants. The harvest is not bad. Li Jianfeng nodded. Lu Xuan and other spiritual plant masters finished the identification and separation work, returned to the camp, had dinner, and returned to their own houses. Due to the short time, the camp was built in a simple manner and only served as a place to rest. It was difficult to identify in the dark, and the sneak attack of the mutated dragonbeard grass was much more dangerous than during the day. Therefore, no cultivators stayed on the mountainside, and only a Wang family mid-level key training cultivator was guarding the outside area. Many spiritual plant masters were still discussing how to quickly and effectively identify, and some went back to the house to practice directly. Lu Xuan practiced for a few weeks, took out the cloud stepping links to let out some air, and lay down on the wooden bed early to rest. Late at night, everything was silent. Lu Xuan, who had been sleeping soundly on the wooden bed for a long time, suddenly opened his eyes bright. After listening for a while, his spiritual consciousness did not detect anything unusual. He quietly circulated his spiritual power and penetrated into the thin dark golden hidden spiritual cloak he wore inside. Suddenly, the translucent silk thread inside the hidden spiritual cloak swam silently and rapidly, and Lu Xuan's figure went straight from the wooden bed to rest. Half a moment later, he emerged in the house unknowingly, holding a ghost-faced stone mushroom in his hand. The corners of his mouth rose. I consumed most of my spiritual power and picked up a so-called broken thing. He chuckled, took out a Puan pill from the storage bag, and quickly replenished his spiritual power. During the day, he used the personal experience of Li Jianfeng of the Wang family as an endorsement to label the ghost-faced stone mushroom as worthless, completely dispelling the thoughts of all the cultivators present about the strange stone. He wanted to pick it up and put it in the storage bag, but out of caution, he finally took the ghost-faced stone mushroom away in the middle of the night with the help of the invisible ability of the hidden spirit cloak. In order to avoid suspicion after all the ghost-faced stone mushrooms disappeared, he deliberately took only a relatively hidden ghost-faced stone mushroom. He planned to take away the remaining ghost-faced stone mushrooms that might not be discovered during his stay here. It's not easy to get a piece back, but compared to the value of it as a third-grade spiritual plant, it's worth the effort and energy. But, I'm just an ordinary, honest, and conscientious spiritual plant master. How can I find some resentful souls to wake up this ghost-faced stone mushroom? Lu Xuan thought secretly, and included this matter in the plan, and started to cultivate the ghost-faced stone mushroom after leaving the secret realm. Chapter 91 Feeding the Evil Spirit, Living in the Body. The next day, Lu Xuan got up early, feeling refreshed. After stealing a ghost-faced stone mushroom in the middle of the night, he started to fish during the day. Although he already had a way to distinguish normal dragonbeard grass, he also knew that under the stimulation of ice and fire magic, the silk whiskers in the dragonbeard grass that were in a state of mutation would have relatively obvious changes. But it was not easy to reveal these, and Lu Xuan himself did not want to stand out, so he mixed in the crowd, walking around on the surface, busy, looking like he was working hard, but in fact he was searching for ghost-faced stone mushrooms everywhere. In the end, including the one he took away last night, he found a total of 5 ghost-faced stone mushrooms. Such a big surprise made him even happier during the fishing process. He squatted in a pile of dragonbeard grass, holding a dark red long whisker in his hand, staring with his eyes, checking the various parts of the dragonbeard grass from time to time, but his actual thoughts had drifted away. Suddenly, from the densely packed dragonbeard grass like tentacles, a dark red long whisker shot out quickly and attacked Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan was well prepared, and a first-grade sword energy talisman appeared on his palm. The spiritual power was quickly activated, and the patterns on the talisman changed instantly. A sharp and fierce sword energy shot out, cutting the attacking mutated dragonbeard grass into 2 pieces. The attack strength of this mutated dragonbeard grass is about the same as that of a cultivator of the first or second level of key training. It is not a big threat. The only thing is that it is hard to defend against it, and you can't be too relaxed. Lu Xuan thought secretly. There are many dragonbeard grasses. Since it is not clear which ones are mutated plants, you must always be vigilant, otherwise there will be a risk of injury. Just as he was about to continue to observe the dragon beard grass in front of him, 6 or 7 dark red long whiskers suddenly emerged from the grass pile, like a poisonous snake, and shot towards Lu Xuan at a high speed. Lu Xuan remained calm in the face of danger, and 3 first-grade sword energy talismans appeared in his palm. At the same time, he activated them, and 3 sword energies shot out in a shape, cutting the 6 or 7 dark red long whiskers into pieces. You have quite a few sword key talismans on you, fellow Daoist Lu. The noise of killing several mutated dragon beard grasses attracted the attention of a nearby spiritual plant master, who sighed. Lu Xuan smiled. I can't help it. I'm not good at fighting, and I heard that accidents often happen in the secret realm. Therefore, before setting off, I specially prepared a lot of talismans in case of emergency. As an ordinary spiritual plant master, it is more reasonable to prepare more talismans, because of the fear of encountering danger. Lu Xuan's spiritual consciousness entered the storage bag, looking at the many talismans piled together, and sighed in his heart. The small episodes of the mutated dragon beard grass attack happened from time to time, and Lu Xuan was not affected, because he was well prepared. After a day, 15 spiritual plant masters selected dozens of dragon beard grasses through various methods. In the camp, Li Jianfeng sat on a boulder, closed his eyes, motionless, like a sculpture. Suddenly, he opened his eyes, and Wan Ruhei's figure floated in front of him nimbly. How is the progress today? Li Jianfeng pointed to a small pile of dragon beard grass on the ground and said. The spiritual plant masters kept trying to cultivate spiritual plants, and finally picked these dragon beard grasses, but they can't guarantee that all of them are normal plants, nor can they be sure that there are no mutants mixed in the dragon beard grasses. A bunch of people who have nothing but reputation, and are seeking fame. Wan Ruhei couldn't help but feel a little irritable and violent in his heart, and a trace of impatience flashed in his eyes. Originally, he thought that he would invite more than 10 spiritual plant masters with the widest reputation in the market to deal with these dragon beard grasses in front of him, bring a lot of income to the Wan family, and he could also benefit from it. But unexpectedly, the situation did not happen as he expected. The identification, separation, and picking of normal dragon beard grass were only slightly faster than before. But under the premise of spending a lot of spiritual stones, it seemed quite uneconomical. It's better to go to the secret realm more and hunt some monsters. The elegant scholar thought in his heart. 3 days passed in a flash, and Lu Xuan did not find any new ghost-faced stone mushrooms. During this period, he used the invisibility ability of a hidden spirit cloak to sneak out in the middle of the night and take away a dormant ghost-faced stone mushroom. As for picking dragon beard grass, he behaved mediocrely, without any outstanding features. He only provided 2 or 3 dragon beard grasses every day, most of which were normal plants, and occasionally a mutated dragon beard grass was mixed in. In the evening of this day, he returned to the camp after a busy day. As he got closer and closer to the camp, Lu Xuan suddenly felt a chill in his chest. The chill became more and more severe, and when he was only 3 feet away from the camp, the coldness almost penetrated into his bones. Lu Xuan's expression gradually became solemn. He had been hanging a transparent jade talisman on his chest. It was the 3rd grade immaculate jade that was opened from the pine nuts of the perfect quality red cloud pine. Immaculate jade can keep the cultivators conscious and resist the invasion and pollution of evil spirits. Long-term wearing can slightly improve the cultivator's spiritual awareness. He had never taken it away since he got it, and had never been in any abnormal state. It was only at this moment that he felt such a bone-chilling cold. He paused for a moment, pretending to stroll around, turned a corner, and left the camp. As he got farther and farther away from the camp, the coldness in his chest also faded a lot, leaving only a slight cool feeling. There is a high probability that there are evil spirits in the camp. I don't know how they invaded and what level of strength they are at. In Lu Xuan's Danshan, the sword light of the Zunli sword pill was swallowing and spitting out, stretching and shrinking. After being nourished by spiritual power every day and transformed into sword energy, the black wind in the sword pill was whistling, the arc of electricity was jumping, and the sword energy was sharper and more flamboyant. This made Lu Xuan feel much more at ease. With this Zunli sword pill that was good at killing, plus the Zhengjin sword out of the Grandmaster realm, many 2nd grade talismans, 3rd grade hidden spirit cloak, immaculate jade, 2nd grade red thread needle, red scale armor, and the secret technique of burning blood arrows. He had enough confidence to save his life, even if it was a strange level evil spirit. Staying outside the camp for a long time was not a solution. Xuan stopped for a moment, followed a spiritual plant master who finished work late, and returned to the camp together. He ate at his usual pace, and after dinner, he visited several spiritual plant masters to chat and ask for spiritual plant knowledge. It can be basically confirmed that it is among the Xuan family, but I don't know whether it is hiding in the house or has already invaded the body of a cultivator. Xuan returned to his room and thought secretly. He just walked around intentionally, and according to the strength of the coldness from the immaculate jade, he kept adjusting his position and constantly narrowing the area. Finally, he roughly determined that the evil spirit was among the Xuan family. While everything is normal, we must find the trace of the evil spirit as soon as possible. Xuan pondered for a moment and took out the stepping cloud links from the life bag. The stepping cloud links fell to the ground, and the 2 tufts of grey and white hair on the tip of its ears trembled, and it cried softly. I'll go to a place later where there is an evil spirit hiding. Try to find it out. If you can find it, call it softly. When you walk in front of it, the hair on its ears will droop. Do you understand? The stepping cloud links nodded gently, to show that it understood. It jumped onto Xuan's shoulder, and was led by Xuan into the house, where the Xuan family was. The stepping cloud links' green eyes kept scanning and called softly. Xuan immediately understood that it had found traces of the evil spirit. He walked over and greeted the Xuan family monks he saw with a smile. Suddenly, he glanced at the side of his shoulder and saw the grey and white hair on the tip of the lynx's ears drooping. Looking up, Xuan Ruhei was looking at him with a smile, and Li Jianfeng was standing silently behind him. The stepping cloud lynx whimpered softly, with hair all over its body standing up, hunched over, and stared at the smiling Xuan Ruhei with green eyes. Dao Lu, is this just the spirit beast you raised? Yes, it's still in the young stage. I was worried about it, so I put it in the spirit beast bag, and brought it here. The Zunli sword pill in Xuan's danshan kept spinning, and his sword spirit was strong, but he showed a warm smile on his face. This lynx has been locked up at home since it was a child. It is quite shy, so it was a little aggressive when it saw the 2 Daoists. I hope Dao Wang and Dao Li will forgive me. Here are some spirit fruits, which taste fragrant and sweet. You 2 Daoists can try them. Xuan took out more than 10 thumb-sized green spirit fruits and handed them to the 2. Okay. Xuan Ruhei took the green spirit fruits with a smile and handed a few to Li Jianfeng behind him. I don't know if it was an illusion, but Xuan felt that his smile fit the term smiling on the outside, but not on the inside. It was as if the skin moved the muscles, not the muscles moved the skin. He smiled and watched Xuan Ruhei and the others eat the spirit fruits, with a sense of expectation in his heart. Long before, after he planted the dragon beard grass he picked in the wild, he could detect the detailed status of the dragon beard grass. So by the same token, would it be the same for raising monsters? What about raising evil spirits? After the 2 swallowed the spiritual fruit, Xuan focused his mind. There was nothing abnormal on Li Jianfeng. When he focused on Xuan Ruhei, a thought came into his mind. Living in the skin, a different level of evil spirit. The main body is an evil skin. After invading and polluting a monk, it can occupy the monk's body, retaining most of its habits, and likes to collect monk's skins. Right square bracket. Chapter 92. Keep reporting and feel good. It's actually possible to use this method to confirm the identity of the evil spirit. Xuan returned to the house, still a little bit unbelievable in his heart. After he learned that Xuan Ruhei was invaded and occupied by the evil spirit, he tried to feed him a few spiritual fruits, but he didn't expect to find out the details of the evil spirit in him. However, although this method looks very strange, the actual effect is not as great as imagined. We only know the information of the evil spirit, but we don't know its abilities and effects. Moreover, under normal circumstances, the evil spirit will not eat things given by a strange monk for no reason. Xuan analyzed. As for how to deal with the evil spirit, after discovering its trace, he would not take the initiative. to expose this fact anyway, and he would not have the idea of eliminating demons, and defending the way, and clearing the evil spirit. There are only 3 choices in front of him: either wait, escape, or get rid of the evil spirit. Wait for the evil spirit to be exposed actively or accidentally, but this is too passive. If he escapes from here, he is not familiar with the secret realm, and it is not suitable. Moreover, if he escapes alone, he may not know whether he will encounter other evil spirits. It's better to get rid of it, and let others get rid of it. Xuan had an idea in his mind. Reporting is fun. Keep reporting and keep feeling good. The night deepened. In the house where Li Jianfeng lived, suddenly, there was a slight noise, and a small ball of paper thrown from nowhere fell into the house. Before the small ball of paper fell, Li Jianfeng, who was sleeping on the bed, opened his eyes. His eyes were sharp, and he jumped up and rushed out of the house. Outside the house, the moon was as cold as water, and there was no trace of any figure. Li Jianfeng held a thick knife in his hand. His eyes were like lightning, and the centipede-like scar on his face looked even more hideous in the night. His spiritual consciousness swept around, and the whole camp was extremely quiet, with only the slight breathing sounds coming from the tent. Li Jianfeng returned to the house with a solemn face, and the tip of the knife flexibly opened the paper ball on the ground. A line of crooked handwriting appeared. Be careful. Xuan Ruhe has been invaded and contaminated by evil spirits. It can be seen that, in order to conceal his handwriting, the owner of the handwriting obviously wrote with his non-dominant hand. Li Jianfeng's eyes did not change. His spiritual power was running, and a deep black flame emerged from the tip of the knife, burning the paper ball into black ash. Early in the morning, Xuan yawned and walked out of the house. Last night, he activated the hidden spirit cloak, and threw a paper ball to Li Jianfeng in an invisible state to warn him. Later, because he was worried that something might happen, he took the remaining 3 ghost-faced stone mushrooms on the mountainside. After returning to the house, he basically did not close his eyes, so he was a little sleepy. He came to the dining area of the camp, where many monks had gathered. The cold feeling in his chest became more and more intense, which made Xuan sober up instantly. While he was eating, he observed Li Jianfeng and Xuan Ruhe. Everything was normal at that time, no different from usual. Xuan's paper ball seemed to have sunk into the sea, and there was no news. Something happened. A middle-aged spiritual plant master entered the crowd and shouted in panic. Fellow Daoist Zaya seems to have disappeared. I didn't see any trace of fellow Daoist Zaya just now, so I went to look around his house, but I still couldn't see him. Do you think he's in trouble? After these words came out, the spiritual plant masters present became a little restless, with worried expressions on their faces and whispering. Calm down. Why are you panicking? Look around the mountain first. Xuan Ruhe stood up and shouted sternly. The crowd of 3 or 5 people turned the mountainside upside down, but still couldn't find any trace of the cultivator surnamed Zaya. Fellow Daoist Zaya may have met with an accident, or he may have just left for something. Don't panic, just be vigilant and be careful. There are many high-level and mid-level cultivators here. Even if there are any demonic beasts and evil spirits invading, they will not be our opponents. Xuan Ruhe comforted more than a dozen spiritual plant masters. Xuan mixed in the crowd, looking uneasy, and seemed to be worried about his own safety. Xuan Ruhe quickly formulated countermeasures. He and Li Jianfeng were the strongest among the cultivators. The 2 agreed that one of them would take turns to guard the night, to ensure the safety of the spiritual plant masters present. In such an uneasy atmosphere, the spiritual plant masters slowed down their speed of picking dragonbeard grass. Soon, night fell. A ghostly figure suddenly appeared in the camp. Under the moonlight, the figure's head turned, as if looking for something. After determining the target, he stretched out his hand and gently stroked the middle of his forehead. Then, a lifelike pale skin bag fell off silently, and the muscle tissue inside was exposed. The pale skin bag had a strange smile at the corner of its mouth, and it flew lightly towards a wooden house. Suddenly, a knife light came suddenly, as if to cut the skin bag with a knife. The pale skin bag was stimulated by the knife light, fluttering in the wind, and just avoided the sharp knife light. Who on earth are you? How dare you take over the body of Daoist Xuan? Li Jianfeng walked out of a shadow holding a heavy sword. He didn't care about the paper ball at first, thinking it was just a prank, or that a cultivator was deliberately trying to sow discord between the two. But after discovering that a spiritual plant master was missing during the day, he believed the words on the paper ball a lot more, so he deliberately stayed in the camp all night, waiting for the moment when the evil spirit appeared. Who am I? I'm Wang Ruhei. The smile on the pale skin became even more intense, and it spread out in the air, revealing Wang Ruhei's face. You bold evil spirit, you dare to invade the Wang family cultivators. Die. A deep black flame rose from the sword in his hand, and the whole person shot towards the strange skin bag in the air like an arrow. Everything that happened in the camp had already awakened everyone. Most of the people present were at the middle level of key training, good at planting, not good at fighting. When they saw the strange and terrifying skin in the air, they thought that even Wang Ruhei, who was at the higher level of key training, was attacked by evil spirits without knowing it. So many spiritual plant masters ran out of the camp directly. Lu Xuan was the same. Although he used the reporting method to quickly pull out the skin that was inhabited, it would be wishful thinking for him to join forces to deal with the evil spirits. He had a first grade swiftness talisman on each of his legs, and he was walking fast in the night. According to his memory, when he came here, he did not run to the depths of the secret realm, but instead went to the outer area of the secret realm, intending to leave here as soon as possible. After returning to the market, I must find a way to buy a light body type spell. Nearly half an hour later, Lu Xuan leaned against the trunk of a big tree and thought to himself. After having the white light ball, he has been waiting for the reward from the light ball. Originally, he thought that if he could open a light body type spell with the existence of the experience pack, he could save a lot of time for cultivation. In addition, the spiritual stones on him have always been hovering around the poverty line, and he puts the purchase of spiritual seeds and young spiritual beasts first. Therefore, he has never had the opportunity to cultivate a light body method. In this situation, the role of the light body method is highlighted. At least it can run faster than other cultivators. This alone is enough. Dao Lu, you are here. It took me a long time to find you. Suddenly, a familiar voice came, and Li Jianfeng appeared not far in front of him. Wang Ruhei and the evil spirit on his body have been solved by me. Come back to the camp with me, and continue to identify the dragon beard grass. He smiled, making the centipede scar on his face shrink together, highlighting it, and becoming more hideous and terrifying. Stand. A silver white sword appeared in Lu Xuan's hand. Sign. Sign. What sign? Li Jianfeng asked doubtfully. Sign to prove that you are not an evil spirit. I suspect that you have been contaminated by the evil spirit. If you want to prove yourself, you can say the sign I left with you before. Lu Xuan pointed the sword in his hand at Li Jianfeng and said in a deep voice. Chapter 93 I won't recognize you if you turn it into ashes. How could I be evil? Look, this is Wang Ruhei's head and the strange skin on his body, all of which were killed by my sword. Li Jianfeng held a bloody head and a soft skin in his hand. One end of the skin was hanging down, and Wang Ruhei's facial features could be vaguely seen. Dao Li, you didn't tell me earlier, which made me suspect and almost slander you. As for the secret code, there is actually no secret code. If you really told me, it would be a ghost. Lu Xuan put away the silver white sword in his hand and said with a smile. Dao Lu is really smart. The centipede-shaped scar on Li Jianfeng's face couldn't help shaking a few times. The two put aside their doubts and worries and walked closer and closer. When they were less than 10 feet away, Lu Xuan flicked his right hand with two fingers in a very concealed way. Then, a thin red needle flew out at a speed that was difficult to see with the naked eye, entered Li Jianfeng's left temple, penetrated his entire head, and flew out from the right temple. A golden sword light followed closely, shooting into Li Jianfeng's heart, and a hole the size of a bowl suddenly appeared in his chest. Dao Lu, what do you mean by this? Blood spurted out of the hole in his chest, and red and white brain pulp flowed out from both sides of his temples from time to time. Li Jianfeng ignored it, and questioned Lu Xuan with a stern look on his face. You are not affected by such a serious injury. You are definitely not Dao Li Jianfeng. Lu Xuan took back the red thread needle, his expression solemn. Ha ha ha, who else can I be if I'm not Li Jianfeng? Okay, you don't know Li Jianfeng. Then do you know this one? Li Jianfeng stretched out his hand and tore it hard from top to bottom. A skin bag peeled off, revealing a new face inside. It was one of the spiritual plant masters who came with Lu Xuan. And this one. Do you recognize this one? Pale skin bags peeled off one by one and floated beside Li Jianfeng. Lu Xuan saw many familiar faces inside, including He Ping from Beikao Tang. His face was as gloomy as water. 3 second grade sword energy talismans quietly slid into his palms. The Zunli sword pill in his danshan expanded and contracted rapidly, transforming his spiritual power into sword light. More than 10 skin bags floated on the ground and were blown by the night wind, swinging greatly. Come on, take off this skin bag on you and keep them company. Li Jianfeng, or the skin bag that he was in, had no intact area on it. He smiled wantonly, and more than 10 skin bags formed a semicircle and attacked Lu Xuan at high speed. HMPH. Lu Xuan snorted coldly, and 3 second grade sword energy talismans. The sword lines on the talismans lit up at the same time, and countless sword energy shot out from the talismans, flying in a fan shape, piercing through all the more than 10 skin bags, and pieces of broken skin fell to the ground. You're looking for death by destroying my skin. I'm going to peel your skin off alive. The skins that had been collected for a while were violently destroyed by Lu Xuan, and the skin that was inhabiting it was furious. A pale and almost transparent thin skin flew out of Li Jianfeng's body. There were layers of phantoms of human faces on the skin, wailing silently, which was breathtaking. Lu Xuan's mind was affected by the countless phantoms of human faces, and his movements involuntarily paused for a moment. The transparent skin seized this fleeting opportunity and pounced in front of Lu Xuan. On Lu Xuan's chest, as the transparent skin quickly approached, the immaculate jade quietly lit up, and a layer of clear and misty spiritual light swept across, pushing the transparent skin aside. Lu Xuan's body was pure and holy, clear and bright, as if it could block any filth. Lu Xuan took a deep breath, and the blood in his body burned rapidly. In an instant, a small blood-red arrow shot out from his mouth, carrying the strong blood energy of the most young and the most rigid, and hit the transparent skin bag that was not yet stable. At the point where the two touched, a wisp of blood-colored flame burned silently, burning the skin bag. This blood-colored flame seemed to be extremely restraining the resentment of the ghosts. The layers of human faces on the skin bag turned into wisps of green smoke and dissipated in the air. An egg-sized sword ball composed of countless fine sword energy shot out of Lu Xuan's mouth silently. The sword light on the sword ball was swallowing and spitting, and the black wind inside was swirling wildly, and thunder emerged. Endless dark sword light was separated from the sword ball, forming a sword energy hurricane, with lightning flashing inside, rushing towards the skin bag with an irresistible momentum. Under the mighty sword light, the skin bag seemed to be fixed by the sword intent, and watched the countless sword lights rushing to strangle itself. Strands and strands of translucent skin fragments fell to the ground, and no human figure could be pieced together. The pure jade on Lu Xuan's chest, which had been emitting coldness since Li Jianfeng appeared, finally returned to normal. The coldness dissipated, and only a faint coolness penetrated into his skin, making him more clear-headed. He also learned that this alien-level body had been successfully killed by him. Out of caution, he quickly took out several evil-removing talismans from his storage bag and swept the entire battle area with layers of pure spiritual light to ensure that there was no trace of evil aura left. With a move of spiritual power, a red fireball the size of a head fell on the skin fragments, quickly burning all the skins into countless black ashes. I recognized you before, but now I don't recognize you, after you turn into ashes. Lu Xuan sighed, and then came to Li Jianfeng, after he removed his skin, took off the storage bag on his waist, and swept it with the evil removing talisman, burning Li Jianfeng's corpse into black ash, put it in a jade bottle, and buried it under a crooked tree. At this point, this alien-level parasitic skin was completely cleared. The outside world is too dangerous. I just came out to help the Wang family pick and process spiritual plants, and I encountered an invasion of evil spirits. Fortunately, I got 5 ghost-faced stone mushrooms without any danger. Well, there is also Li Jianfeng's storage bag that can comfort my injured heart a little. Lu Xuan took out a blood and soul pill and swallowed it into his stomach to replenish the blood and ki in his body. The Zunli sword pill returned to the Danshan. Just now, in order to prevent the evil spirits from being difficult to kill, Lu Xuan almost poured out all the sword light that had been nurtured in the sword pill during this period. It must be nourished for a while before the next time the pill is taught. After swallowing the blood and soul pill, his pale face became more red. He identified the direction and walked back to the periphery of the secret realm. After the evil spirit disturbed the Dragonbeard grass camp, I guess the remaining spiritual plant masters will not go back. To prevent any unexpected trouble, I'd better return to the market as soon as possible. I don't know how the grass puppet is taking care of it, but I should be able to handle the 4 young iron crabs, right? Lu Xuan was flying fast, thinking about the spiritual plants and animals in the spiritual field. Halfway, he opened the storage bag he got from Li Jianfeng and found dozens of dragonbeard grass that had been processed, but he didn't know how many normal spiritual plants were among them. There were also some elixirs, 2 second-grade magic tools, more than 10 talismans, and more than 200 spiritual stones. There was no trace of the heavy sword. As for the storage bags on other cultivators, Lu Xuan didn't know how the body bag was handled at that time. However, these were also a pleasant surprise. He didn't think about going back to find the storage bag. At this moment, he only wanted to leave the secret realm and return to the yard. Chapter 94 Weird Scabbard. Daoyao, please stay. Lu Xuan shouted in surprise to the 3 monks more than 10 feet away. After he dealt with the body bag, he kept heading towards the outer edge of the secret realm, away from the core area of the secret realm. Along the way, he was lucky enough to pick a few spiritual herbs and kill a blind first-grade monster. But he didn't know how to leave the secret realm. He kept looking for a monk who was familiar with the secret realm to lead the way. After nearly half an hour, he found the figures of the 3 monks. When the 3 monks heard Lu Xuan's call, they turned around. The spiritual power of the magic tools in their hands surged, and their eyes were alert. Lu Xuan walked to a distance of 6 or 7 feet away from the 3 people. There were 3 monks, 2 men and 1 woman. 2 of them were at the 6th level of key training, and 1 was at the 5th level of key training. They were dusty and exhausted, which showed that they had been in the secret realm for quite a while. 3 Daoists, please rest assured. I have no ill intentions. On the contrary, I have something to ask of you. Lu Xuan stood still, spread his hands, and said kindly, Daoyao, please speak. The leader said, holding a black flying sword. I was originally an ordinary spiritual plant master in Linyang Market. I was invited to come here to pick some difficult spiritual plants. Unexpectedly, I encountered an evil spirit invading on the way. My fellow cultivators were constantly killed by the evil spirits. I was lucky to escape with my life. But this is my first time entering this newly opened secret realm. I don't know anything about it. I don't know how to leave the secret realm after escaping. Can the 3 Taoist friends do me a favor and take me out of the secret realm by the way? I will have spiritual stones to thank you 3. The 3 looked at Lu Xuan. Their spiritual senses peeked out that Lu Xuan's cultivation was at the 4th level of key training. They exchanged glances obscurely. The tacit understanding formed over the years made the 3 people immediately understand the thoughts of the other 2. Daoyao will be blessed. After surviving a disaster, the 3 of us are planning to leave the secret realm. Daoyao can come with us. The middle-aged cultivator in the lead said with a warm smile. Lu Xuan clasped his fists in gratitude and followed behind the 3 people. Daoyao may be injured? Is it serious? Halfway through, after getting to know each other a little, the middle-aged cultivator asked. Lu Xuan, who was following the 3 people, did not look very good at the moment. His face was pale, his steps were weak, and he looked like he had lost a lot of energy. It's okay. Thank you for your concern. In order to get rid of the evil spirit's pursuit, I used a technique that required burning blood essence, so I became like this now, but I will recover soon. Lu Xuan explained. After taking a blood and soul pill, his blood essence had almost recovered, but he looked a little weak on the surface. I see. I have a bottle of healing pills here. After taking it, you can quickly restore your blood and ki. Would you like to try it? The middle-aged monk took out a jade bottle from his storage bag and was about to throw it to Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan quickly refused. Dao Lu, you are too polite. And I noticed that you kept a long distance from the three of us along the way. Are you worried that we will harm you? That's not the case. I just think it's better to keep a safe distance so that both sides can be assured. Lu Xuan explained. Fellow Daoist, you have disappointed the three of us. Since you have joined us, you should trust us instead of being so suspicious. Besides, there are evil beasts everywhere in the secret realm. Fellow Daoist is so far away from us. If something unexpected happens, we may not be able to rescue him in time. The middle-aged monk in the lead said patiently, and the two people beside him nodded in agreement. Then, I'll come over, Lu Xuan said tentatively, approaching the three people. I told you to keep a safe distance, but you didn't. Keep a safe distance to protect you, not me. On the ground, the three small piles of black ash were still hot. Lu Xuan threw a demon-repelling talisman in the center of the triangle. The pure spiritual light spread without causing any abnormal movement. Lu Xuan was completely relieved and looked at the three storage bags in his hand. Not long ago, the three people lured him to get closer and closer, and suddenly attacked. Lu Xuan, who was well prepared, easily solved them in a few encounters, and burned them to black ash. Naturally, he accepted the storage bags left by the three people. Surviving a great disaster does bring good fortune in the future. Isn't that good fortune coming? Lu Xuan raised his lips and probed his spiritual power into the storage bag. Bah, three poor ghosts. There weren't many things left in the three storage bags, only more than 100 spiritual stones in total, and some elixirs and talismans, mainly made of various monster materials, spiritual medicines and spiritual herbs, but the grades were not high. Adding them together, the value was far less than the storage bag left by Li Jianfeng. In the core area of the secret realm, there was a huge palace. More than a dozen cultivators were frantically attacking the restrictions outside the palace, and the restrictions were shaky, as if they would be broken in the next moment. Among the more than 10 people, the weakest one was at the high level of key training, and more than half of them were at the perfect level of key training, and even the head of the Xuan family, who was at the early stage of foundation building, was among them. The red-clothed girl, the sect disciple, that Lu Xuan had seen before, was staying in the corner. The four-eyed red goblin on her shoulder had two pairs of pupils staring at the distance, and there were two bloody tear marks on her weird face. A monk in black robes had several dark green ghosts crawling around. Next to him was a young man and woman, wearing white clothes as white as snow, with a small golden sword embroidered on their sleeves. They each controlled a flying sword, and attacked the restriction. After breaking through the many formations and restrictions, the Xuan family, with the help of several other forces, finally succeeded in breaking through the last layer of restrictions. Everyone guessed that this secret realm was a cave left behind by a late foundation building cultivator or even a giant and cultivator, so they were more eager for the things in the palace. Under the violent attack, the restriction shattered with a bang, and several rays of light shot out from it. Everyone used various means to fight for the treasures in the rays of light. Outside the secret realm, Lu Xuan suddenly felt that the Zunli sword pill that was being nourished with spiritual power in his dantian had lost control and trembled slightly, with the frequency and amplitude increasing, as if it would jump out of his dantian at any time. What's going on? Lu Xuan was in doubt. This was the first time he encountered such a situation after getting the Zunli sword pill. At this moment, a ray of light flew from the sky to Lu Xuan. Before he could react, the ray of light suddenly came and stuck to his chest. An ancient scabbard was tightly pressed against his chest and kept sliding down. No, there. Just as Lu Xuan was about to grab the scabbard that was going down, the scabbard automatically stopped at his dantian. What is this? Lu Xuan grabbed the scabbard and was about to take a closer look. He didn't know what he thought of. His face changed, and transparent silk threads on the surface of the hidden spirit cloak he was wearing emerged and swam wildly. Lu Xuan's figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. In an instant, a sharp wailing sound sounded from a distance, and before the sound fell, a blood cloud floated over. The blood cloud was filled with evil spirits, almost turning into substance, and a violent spiritual consciousness swept across the place where the scabbard disappeared. A light exclamation came from the blood cloud, and a blood-colored skeleton popped out from it, and looked at the ground. Pale flames flickered in the skeleton's empty eye sockets, and the flames swayed. I clearly sensed the presence of the scabbard's aura here, but there is no trace left. Where did it go? The bloody skeleton returned to the blood cloud and floated towards the north. Chapter 95 Sword Peacock. The blood cloud passed by, and a few breaths later, the Xuan family cultivator in the early stage of foundation building stepped on a flying boat magic weapon and came from a distance in an instant. The spiritual consciousness scanned it and found nothing unusual. The head of the Xuan family did not hesitate at all and chased in the direction where the blood cloud disappeared. Although he was very interested in the strange sword sheath that flew out, the strange evil spirit was more important. If he didn't get rid of it, he couldn't take on this new secret realm with complete confidence. What's more, before the evil spirit escaped, it also grabbed a light treasure, so he had to take it back along the way. The flying boat magic weapon was like a sharp arrow, and it disappeared into the sky with a swoosh. Half a moment later, Xuan's figure appeared under a giant tree dozens of feet away, with a look of fear on his face. After the blood cloud appeared, the third grade immaculate jade hanging on his chest sent a piercing chill, as if it was going to freeze half of his chest. Compared with the alien level parasitic skin bag he had seen up close before, the chill was many times stronger. Xuan therefore concluded that the blood-colored skeleton and the blood cloud was much stronger than the skin it was in, and was definitely a ghost-level evil spirit, equivalent to a foundation-building cultivator. After he inexplicably obtained the strange scabbard that was attracted by the Zunli sword pill, he immediately noticed something was wrong. The speed of the scabbard was so fast that his spiritual consciousness and cultivation at the 8th level of key training did not react, and it took the initiative to find the location of the sword pill. It was obvious that it was not an ordinary treasure, and treasures of this grade often bring a lot of unnecessary trouble. Therefore, after Xuan got the scabbard, he immediately put it into the storage bag, subconsciously activated the third grade hidden spirit cloak, entered a short-term invisible state, and avoided direct contact with the ghost level skeleton. He took out a PON pill from the storage bag, quickly replenished the remaining spiritual power, identified the direction, and rushed out of the secret realm. On the way, he raised his hidden cultivation to the 5th level of key training, and took out the 2nd grade sword grass to enhance his persuasiveness, so as not to be too easily regarded as a fat sheep by the cultivators. At this moment, outside the secret realm, no cultivators or monsters disappeared. Xuan walked slowly in the woods, looking for the cultivators. Suddenly, 2 sword lights passed by from the sky, and soon, they turned back and stopped in front of Xuan. The 2 wore standard robes and had extraordinary demeanor. 1 man and 1 woman. The female cultivator was extremely beautiful and had a cold temperament, like an orchid in a valley. The other male cultivator had an ordinary appearance, but his eyes were particularly sharp, like a sword. "Excuse me, fellow Taoist, I wonder if you can do me a favor and show me the artifact in your hand?" the cold woman asked, and her voice also revealed a sense of coldness. Xuan's spiritual sense swept over and instantly realized that the cultivation of the 2 was much higher than his. He looked calm and said lightly, "Judging from your demeanor, you should be from a famous and orthodox family. It is a bit impolite to ask for things from others casually like this." "I'm abrupt." A trace of apology flashed in the eyes of the female cultivator. "I was really surprised by what you have. This is the first time I have seen someone out there with the unique spiritual plant of the Heavenly Sword sect, the sword grass. So I became curious." Xuan's expression eased a little, and his tone was much calmer. Since the woman in front of him knew the name of the sword grass, it at least meant that what she said was true. "I cultivated this sword grass, and it definitely did not come from the hands of the cultivators of your sect," Xuan said in a deep voice. The cold woman understood the meaning of his words and smiled, like an orchid blooming. "I don't doubt what you mean, because the sword grass in your hand is slightly different from the one produced in the sect, which is easy to distinguish." She paused. "Among your ancestors, are there any cultivators who worshipped in the Heavenly Sword sect?" "No." Xuan shook his head. "I'm just a casual spiritual plant master. By chance, I got a sword grass spiritual seed and cultivated it successfully." "I see." The female cultivator nodded slightly, with a flash of surprise in her eyes. She didn't expect that the sect's inherited spiritual plant was actually cultivated by a casual spiritual plant master who practices Ki. It seems that you have a strong talent in cultivating spiritual plants. She paused and continued. I wonder if you are interested in joining the Xuan sect? If so, I can introduce you. Lu Xuan looked hesitant. He still had a lot of expectations about joining the sect. After all, the sect can provide a safe environment with rich spiritual energy, as well as high-grade spiritual plants and seeds, which are what he needs most at the moment. It's just that the two people who suddenly appeared in front of him made it difficult for him to trust them. The cold woman saw the hesitation in Lu Xuan's heart and smiled. Let's not talk about anything else. For example, the sword grass planted by fellow Taoists has many related variants in the Heavenly Sword sect. My 4th grade sword peacock is a mutant of ordinary sword grass. Before the woman finished speaking, a green flying sword with the same shape as the sword grass rose from behind her, spinning rapidly. With the sound of the sword, it split into hundreds of real sword ki, just like a peacock spreading its tail, overlapping and flamboyant, with infinite murderous intent hidden in the beautiful splendor. Lu Xuan's eyes lit up. This so-called sword peacock is quite cool. The cold woman saw Lu Xuan's expression and smiled. If you enter our sect, you can directly try to cultivate sword grass of the same level as, or even better than the sword peacock. The Heavenly Sword sect will start a new round of recruiting disciples in a few months. This is a Kingayan order. Each inner disciple is eligible to give one to others. With this order, you can save some tedious steps when you join the Heavenly Sword sect, and there are some benefits. A sign token flew out of the woman's sleeve and floated in front of Lu Xuan. There were light sign clouds on the token, and a sword tip pierced out of the clouds, as if trying to break free from the token. Seeing Lu Xuan accept the sign token, the cold woman and the other person did not stop and sacrificed the flying sword and disappeared from Lu Xuan's sight in an instant. I hope to see you soon. Lu Xuan touched the immaculate jade on his chest with the sign token, and there was no strange feeling. He looked at the token in his hand and felt that something was quietly forming in his heart. In the sky, 2 sword lights were flying like lightning. Junior Sister Sue, why did you give away the Kingayan order so easily? You are just a casual spiritual plant master with average cultivation. The cultivator with sharp eyes suddenly asked. Although the cold woman he was traveling with had similar cultivation, their identities were very different. The woman's name was Su Manman, an inner disciple of the Xuan sect. She was outstanding in talent and her identity was extraordinary. She was the daughter of an elder in the Xuan sect, so she was able to have a 4th grade sword peacock to protect her during the key training stage. Brother Zhang, you have to know that cultivating a sword grass is not an easy task. It requires the spiritual plant master to master a superb sword technique. There cannot be any mistakes in the cultivation process. Too much or too little sword energy is not conducive to the growth of sword grass. Even in the sect, there are many spiritual plant masters who cannot cultivate it. What's more, I found that the quality of the sword grass in the hands of that casual cultivator is far above the average level, which is even more rare. With such a strong talent in swordsmanship and spiritual plant master, it is worth me giving away the Kingayan order. I didn't find any good treasures when I came to this secret realm this time, but by accident, I might have found a promising talent. Isn't Uncle worried about the lack of successors to the sword peacock and sword crow? Maybe the casual spiritual plant master just now can bring him an unexpected surprise. The cold woman smiled with a hint of mischief in her eyes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96, still the same iron claw crab. Finally I'm home. Lu Xuan stood in front of the gate of his family courtyard, feeling full of emotion. Fortunately, there are still kind people in the cultivation world who took me back to the market. After meeting the first 3 cultivators, he met 2 more waves of cultivators, all of whom were warm and generous, and insisted on giving him their storage bags. When he met 2 cultivators for the 4th time, they were willing to take Lu Xuan back to Linayang Market. During the return process, without the second grade iron feathered eagle, the speed was much slower. It took Lu Xuan and his friends 4 or 5 days to reach the market. With a creak, the gate opened, and a familiar spiritual energy came from the yard. Lu Xuan took a deep breath, and felt at peace. Dao Iao Lu, you are finally back. A familiar voice came from not far away. Lu Xuan turned his head, and saw Wu Wenjing standing at the door a few feet away, looking at him with drunken eyes. I heard that you went to that new secret realm. I was worried that I would lose a drinking buddy. I'm glad you came back safely. The old man said with a smile. No choice. I have to agree to the invitation from the Wang family cultivator. Lu Xuan said helplessly. There was indeed a small accident in the secret realm, but fortunately, it was safe and sound and I came back safely. By the way, fellow Daoist Wu, has anyone come to the outside of my yard during the time I was away? Wu Wenjing shook his head to make his mind clearer and thought for a while. There is a young man named Zhang who came to play with you, and the old steward of Beikao Tang comes here almost every day. Apart from that, I didn't see anyone coming. Okay, thank you, fellow Daoist Wu. I'll go back to the house to clean up, and come to have a drink with you. Lu Xuan said with a smile, thinking about Zhang Ziyuan and steward He. After entering the yard, he didn't have time to sit down and rest, and came to the spiritual field as soon as possible. The spiritual field was filled with mist. The grass puppet noticed that someone had invaded the spiritual field, and the huge grey grass head looked over. After sensing Lu Xuan's breath, it stood there in a daze, paused for a few breaths, and continued to patrol the spiritual field. Its pace seemed to be much lighter. Lu Xuan scanned the entire spiritual field. Everything was normal. He was relieved, and came to the spiritual spring pool. In the clear spiritual spring pool, 4 first-grade iron claw crab juveniles each occupied a corner, spitting transparent bubbles. After more than 10 days without feeding, Lu Xuan found that the abdomen of the iron claw crab was much flatter. The bulging eyeball on the head of the most lively one noticed Lu Xuan's upper body protruding over, and raised a pair of blue-black claws like a big knife, clamping like a pliers, with an extremely arrogant attitude. Very good, you are still the same iron claw crab as before, without any change. Lu Xuan looked at the iron claw crab juvenile that provoked him, feeling relieved. In the center of the spiritual spring pool, the pure snow lotus, surrounded by the mudstone wall, has quietly grown a white lotus pod after more than 10 days. The embryonic form of lotus seeds can be vaguely seen in the lotus pod. This is a pleasant surprise. Lu Xuan focused his mind on the pure snow lotus. Seeing that the progress bar below was only a short distance away from being fully filled, he was delighted. In the spiritual field, before Lu Xuan left, he picked all the firefly grasses, and put the 3rd grade Huan Iron Luo fruit and Jiao vine into the Sheng Sheng bag. Therefore, in addition to the 1st grade pure snow lotus, there were only 3 2nd grade King Neolingcha and 5 Tangu bamboo. In addition, there were 4 diseased 2nd grade spiritual plants that were purchased, before in the corner. After more than 10 days of not being properly cultivated, the King Neolingcha and Tangu bamboo were not in a very good state. Lu Xuan quickly scooped a bowl of spiritual spring water from the spiritual spring pool, and poured it on the old roots of the spiritual tea. He also took out a handful of fine iron powder from the storage bag, and sprinkled it around the Tangu bamboo. After taking care of the spiritual plants in the spiritual field, Lu Xuan opened the Sheng Sheng bag, and the cloud stepping lynx jumped out of the grey-black cloth bag, landing safely on its thick paws. Ah! It stretched its limbs and squeaked softly. This time when it went to the secret realm, it stayed in the Sheng Sheng bag for most of the time, and its joints were almost rusted. Lu Xuan took out the phantom smoke luo fruit and the jiao teng from the Sheng Sheng bag. After being in there for so long, the vitality of the two did not weaken much. He replanted them in the spiritual field, and his mind was focused on these 2 3rd grade spiritual plants. The inside of the phantom smoke luo fruit quickly secreted white smoke, which continued to expand, hiding the spiritual fruit that was like smoke and fog. As for the jiao teng, Lu Xuan sensed its strong desire for snake blood from its vines, and hurriedly took out the green water python blood, and poured more on the black vines. The vines were madly absorbing the red and green mixed blood of the green water python. After a while, the vines that seemed a little dry slowly came to life, swimming slowly like a poisonous snake. The surface of the vines had red and green lines, which added a bit of enchantment and strangeness. After cultivating the spiritual plants, Xuan returned to the house and counted the harvest of this trip. This time, he went to the secret realm to identify and separate spiritual plants for the Xuan family. Although he encountered accidents on the way, he gained a lot. Among them, one of the biggest harvests was the 5 ghost-faced stone mushrooms that fell into dormancy. 5 third-grade spiritual plants were obtained at once, but they still needed to be crushed, and the resentful ghosts, after refining to wake them up. The appearance of the ghost-faced stone mushroom and its cultivation method revealed evil, but Xuan didn't care much about it. After trying to feed the evil spirit with spiritual fruits, and knowing its true face, let alone this kind of weird spiritual plant, if there is a chance, Xuan even wants to raise a small evil spirit to try. In addition, there are dozens of dragonbeard grasses that have been preliminarily processed, which may contain many mutant plants. At the same time, the mutant silk whiskers in the normal dragonbeard grass need to be separated. Xuan already had a complete method of identification and separation, and could quickly filter out the normal dragonbeard grass. A second-grade spiritual plant could be exchanged for a lot of spiritual stones. In terms of spiritual stones, there was a part of the reward paid by the Xuan family, 100 spiritual stones, more than 200 spiritual stones in Li Jianfeng's storage bag, and more than 200 spiritual stones, provided by several other cultivators. Xuan's net worth barely exceeded 1,000 spiritual stones. In addition, there were 2 second-grade magic tools, several storage bags, various types of first-grade talismans, first-grade elixirs, a bunch of low-grade monster materials, spiritual herbs and spiritual medicines. There was also the strange scabbard, which seemed to be attracted by the Zunli sword pill in his body, and had been silent for the past few days. However, it could be pursued by the evil spirits of the GUI level and the cultivators in the early stage of foundation building at the same time, so it was likely to be an extraordinary treasure. Finally, there was the so-called King Iron order left to him by the cold female cultivator, which could make it easier for cultivators to join the Xianjian sect. No wonder so many independent cultivators are keen on exploring secret realms and competing with others for opportunities. The benefits are really too great. However, there are also considerable risks. Evil spirits invade and track, and there are cultivators with ulterior motives. If you are not careful, you may fall into danger. It is better to cultivate spiritual plants quietly. Xuan couldn't help but sigh. Chapter 97 Decision. Crack. A fist-sized dark ore was easily broken by a huge dark claw. The young iron crab raised a pair of big knife-like claws towards Xuan, with bulging eyes, as if disdainful. I haven't clamped it for a while, and my skills have improved. Xuan smiled and sighed, and sent the fine iron ore that was divided into 2 to the pair of claws of the iron crab. 2 divided into 4, 4 divided into 8. The volume of the ore became smaller at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the young iron crab tirelessly broke the ore that was stretched out, with full toughness. With a series of cracking sounds, Xuan's thoughts drifted. This time he was invited to the secret realm, and he felt the helplessness of a casual cultivator. He usually farmed peacefully, did not make enemies with others, and did not get involved in any interest disputes. He just showed his identity as a spiritual plant master with good planting talent. In order to avoid some unnecessary troubles, he also established a certain cooperative relationship with Beikeo Tang, a foundation building alchemist, and affiliated with Beikeo Tang. But when the Xuan family cultivator came to invite him, he still had no choice. Even though he didn't want to go to the secret realm to help identify spiritual plants, he had to agree. The helplessness of the low-level casual cultivators was vividly reflected. After this trip, he had the idea of leaving Linyang Market. Beikeo Tang recommended him to the Xuan family. No matter what the purpose was, it was obvious that it would cause trouble for him, and the only affection between the 2 sides was gone. Of course, this did not affect his attitude towards Manager He. Over the years, the thin old man's care and concern for him could not be fake. As for the Xuan family, this time 2 high-level key training cultivators were killed in the secret realm. In anger, they would definitely come to interrogate him. Even if he had a clear conscience, he might be affected. But leaving Linyang market, where to go is another problem. Changed to a new market? All crows are black. Lu Xuan guessed that, even if he changed a market, he could not change the fact that he was restricted by others. Find a mountain forest, live a secluded life, and cultivate spiritual plants alone. It was a bit unrealistic. First of all, cultivating spiritual plants requires pure spiritual energy, preferably spiritual fields reclaimed near spiritual veins. Secondly, if you are alone outside, you may encounter evil spirits and monsters. Finally, it is difficult to obtain high-grade spiritual seeds. In this case, the best place to go is to join the sect. With Lu Xuan's current 8th level cultivation of key training, and his unique and exquisite skills in cultivating spiritual plants, he is qualified to join the sect. The benefits of joining the sect are obvious. The spiritual energy is purer and richer, which is conducive to the growth of spiritual plants. At the same time, it can provide a safe and stable shelter environment, and it is possible to obtain high-grade spiritual seeds, young spiritual beasts, etc. After making a decision, Lu Xuan's first thought was the Xianjian sect mentioned by the cold female cultivator. With the Kingayan order she gave him, it would be much easier for him to join the sect. Lu Xuan also had a lot of interest in the mutant sword grass mentioned by the female cultivator. Next, it's time to prepare to leave the market and solve the problem of the Xuan family. He stood up and shifted his mind to the young iron crab under his feet. The pair of claws were already trembling, and they kept shaking in the air, but whenever a small piece of fine ironstone reached out, they would always want to break it violently. Lu Xuan threw it into the spiritual spring pool, collected the fine ironstone, opened the mist-hidden maze, told the grass puppet to take good care of the spiritual field, and took the cloud-stepping links to Baikotang. In Baikotang, the aroma of medicine was strong. Lu Xuan walked into the door and saw a thin old man in a daze in front of the counter. He walked up to the old man and waved his hand in front of his eyes. Manager, he came back to his senses and saw Lu Xuan. His eyes lit up and his face was full of wrinkles. Lu boy, you are finally back. I heard that you went to that secret realm, and I have been worried about you. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. The thin old man patted Lu Xuan's shoulder gently. Thank you for thinking about me, Mr. He. Lu Xuan felt a warm feeling in his heart and bowed his head in gratitude. Mr. He looked around and saw that no one was paying attention, so he whispered to Lu Xuan. A spiritual plant master who entered the secret realm with me said that you were invaded by evil spirits in the secret realm. What happened? It is true. Lu Xuan nodded heavily. At that time, we were led by the Xuan family cultivators to pick and process spiritual plants in a certain place in the secret realm. Suddenly one day, we found that a spiritual plant master disappeared inexplicably. Immediately afterwards, a high-level key training cultivator of the Xuan family found that his companion was invaded and contaminated by evil spirits. The two had a desperate fight. We spiritual plant masters have low cultivation and are not good at fighting. We are worried about being affected, so we all fled. I don't know what happened afterwards. After I escaped from the secret realm, I tried to find a few cultivators. I was lucky and was taken out of the secret realm and returned to the market. Lu Xuan told the truth, but concealed a few key points. Discovering the evil spirit, reporting it to Li Jianfeng, killing Li Jianfeng who was invaded by the evil spirit, avoiding the strange level evil spirit, and solving several teams of cultivators who were plotting against the law. The biggest lie is not 9 truths and 1 lie, but all of them are true, but combined together they are lies. He learned from Manager He that, in addition to Lu Xuan, there were already 5 or 6 spiritual plant masters who had returned. Of the remaining 2 people in Baikotang, only He Ping had not returned. Lu Xuan felt relieved. With a few more people, his words became more credible, and at the same time, the risk of being blamed by the Xuan family was also shared. He paused, pretending to be hesitant, and finally gritted his teeth, and said to the thin old man, Manager He Pinging the hole may not be able to come back. When I was running away, I saw him from a distance, and found that he was targeted by evil spirits. 9 out of 10 times he met with an accident. Really? If so, it will be difficult for the Xuan family to give us an explanation. He Ping was related to the alchemists in the hall, and his position was extraordinary. There is another thing I must make clear. When picking and identifying spiritual plants, Wang Ruhei, who was supposed to stay in the camp of the Yuan family, went out to explore the secret realm privately and was infected with evil spirits, which led to this disaster. Are you serious? Manager, he asked seriously. The other spiritual plant masters can testify. In that case, the nature is different. If it was simply invaded and contaminated by evil spirits, it could be said to be an accident, and the Wang family is also qualified to interrogate the surviving cultivators. But because Wang Ruhei did not take the responsibility of escorting the spiritual plant masters, but instead neglected his duties, the evil spirits were attracted, and the disaster had nothing to do with Lu Xuan and others. On the contrary, the dead spiritual plant master should be blamed on Wang Ruhei of the Wang family. More than a dozen spiritual plant masters who went to the secret realm are all treasures of the major forces in the market. Losing any one of them will cause great losses. After knowing that this result was caused by the negligence of the Yuan family cultivators, the other families and forces in the market will never let it go and will definitely ask for an explanation. Under the game between the two sides, there is no time to take care of small scattered cultivators like Lu Xuan. Chapter 98 Sweet Ointment. By the way, Mr. He, please fetch me 200 firefly grass seeds. After Manager He passed the message, Lu Xuan continued. Okay, wait here for a moment. Because of Bei Tang's recommendation, Lu Xuan almost fell into danger. The old man might have felt a little guilty, so he didn't ask about the whereabouts of the batch of firefly grass he had planted before, and walked straight into Bei Tang. Still, according to the previous preferential price, each firefly grass seed was 30 broken spirits. Lu Xuan paid 60 spirit stones and obtained 200 dried up tea-like spirit seeds from the old man. He planned to plant a batch of these spirit seeds after joining the sect, harvest them and gain cultivation, and condense the rest by himself and plant them in a cycle. Back in the yard, Lu Xuan looked at the 4 second-grade diseased spirit plants he had purchased. With his mind focused, the progress bar below had occupied more than half. Because the spirit plants themselves were severely damaged during the disease process, further refined cultivation would not have much impact on the quality, so Lu Xuan picked them all. He did not sell them to Bei Tang, but took them to Wan Bao Lao. In Wan Bao building, there were all kinds of treasures, which made people dazzled. As soon as Lu Xuan entered the hall, a beautiful female cultivator came up to him with a smile. Dao, if you need anything, feel free to ask me. I want to sell 4 second-grade spiritual plants. You go find someone who can make the decision. The beautiful girl nodded gently. After a while, a white-haired old man came over and clasped his fists to Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan took out 4 second-grade diseased spiritual plants and placed them on a flat open space. The old man narrowed his eyes and carefully examined every part of the spiritual plants. Dao, write down the quality of the 4 spiritual plants, 3 of which are inferior quality, and 1 is ordinary quality. How about this? 80 spirit stones for each inferior quality plant, and 100 spirit stones for the ordinary one. What do you think? Okay. Lu Xuan nodded. After taking the 340 spirit stones, he asked the beautiful girl, I heard that Wan Bao building has many branches in the cultivation world. Each branch can transport and exchange cultivation resources and can also carry cultivators to designated areas. Is this true? Yes. Wan Bao building has many large-scale flying magic tools of the 3rd grade, the Wang Xiang ship, which can transport a large amount of cultivation resources. After paying a certain amount of spirit stones, cultivators can also take it along the way. The beautiful girl said proudly. How many spirit stones are needed to go to the nearest place of Xianjian sect? Dao, I want to join Xianjian sect? I heard that, unless there are some gifted cultivators, the minimum threshold for joining Xianjian sect is to have a high level key training. The girl looked at Lu Xuan with a hint of curiosity in her eyes. When she sensed Lu Xuan's mid-level key training, she couldn't help but ask doubtfully. Don't worry about this, as long as you can earn spirit stones. Lu Xuan naturally would not reveal his high-level key training to others, and he also had a King Iron order, so he said calmly, sorry, I did something unnecessary. The girl said with a straight face. There are 4 levels of rooms in the Wangxiang ship, namely A, B, C, and D. The D level is the lowest level, with only a small independent room at the bottom of the ship. The area of the A level is equivalent to that of a separate courtyard, which can accommodate up to 10 people. It is equipped with a soundproof formation, served by female cultivators, and the freshest spiritual fruits and tea are provided every day. How many spiritual stones are needed to get to the D-level room closest to the Xianjian sect? Lu Xuan asked directly. He knew that the A-level was not suitable for a small casual cultivator like him to stay in, and the D-level with its independent space was enough for him. Starting from Linyang Market, the nearest place to the Xianjian sect is a place called Jianmen Town. The D-level room fee is 200 spiritual stones. 200 spiritual stones. So expensive. Lu Xuan couldn't help but exclaimed. 200 spiritual stones were equivalent to an ordinary second-grade magic weapon, and this was just the one-way fare. Daoyao, the straight line distance between Fangxi and Jianmen Town is thousands of miles, and you have to go around several dangerous places. The actual distance is no less than 10,000 miles. The Wangxiang ship is a third-grade flying magic weapon, arranged with a third-grade formation, and there are foundation-building cultivators protecting it all the way. You don't have to worry about encountering monsters and evil spirits, as well as robbers and evil cultivators. The girl said with a smile. Lu Xuan nodded. What the female cultivator said did make some sense. If you really want to travel alone to Xianjian sect, it is estimated that it will be difficult to arrive smoothly. The journey is long and the route is uncertain. If you accidentally step into a dangerous place, you may be buried in the belly of monsters and evil spirits. If you are alone, you may easily become the target of evil cultivators and robbers hiding in the mountains and forests. Okay, then 200 spirit stones. Lu Xuan bargained for a while, and finally nodded helplessly. Fortunately, this trip to the secret realm will bring a lot of benefits, otherwise he may not be willing to spend such a large amount of spirit stones. Under the guidance of the girl, he exchanged 200 spirit stones for a special talisman paper from Wan Baolao, and then he could board the Wangxiang ship with the talisman paper. He inquired and learned that the Wangxiang ship from Fangxi to Jianmen Town would depart in about 10 days. Lu Xuan returned to the courtyard. Time was tight, and he had to deal with everything during this period. First of all, he had to sell a large number of monster materials, spiritual herbs and medicines in his hands. He set up stalls in various shops and markets, and sold them all at a relatively favorable price. The magic tools and storage bags were not obtained through formal channels. He went to the black market and sold the second-grade magic tools and several storage bags obtained from Li Jianfeng. In this way, 4 diseased second-grade spiritual plants, a large number of low-grade monster materials, spiritual herbs and medicines, as well as storage bags, magic tools, etc., brought Lu Xuan a total of more than 1,000 spirit stones. His wealth was unprecedentedly rich, reaching 2,000 spirit stones. During this period, he went to the home of the young snake catcher Yuji, and bought all the green water python blood in his home, which was enough for Jiao Teng to absorb for a long time. He also went to the homes of Zhang Ziyuan and manager He, and said goodbye to them reluctantly. In the yard, the seeds of the pure snow lotus have entered the mature stage. Lu Xuan picked them the day before leaving. He got 16 snow white lotus seeds. Lotus seeds are the main material of the second-grade elixir Yunling Dan. They can also be taken directly to keep the cultivator clear-headed for a period of time. After the pure snow lotus was picked, a white ball of light floated on the water in the Lingquan pool and flickered slightly. Lu Xuan picked it up gently, and the ball of light turned into countless light spots and poured into his body. Then, a thought flashed through his mind, and a small bottle of ointment appeared in his hand. The ointment is light green, and the fragrance is diffused, which makes people feel refreshed. Ganlin paste, a second-grade elixir, can stop bleeding, and promote tissue regeneration, and promote wound healing. It's not bad to be able to produce a second-grade healing ointment from a first-grade pure snow lotus of ordinary quality. Lu Xuan sighed, and put the ointment into the storage bag. Before leaving, he put the second-grade King Neo Lingcha, Tangu bamboo, third-grade Huan Luo fruit, Jiao Teng, First grade demon beast iron claw crab, spiritual pet stepping cloud lynx, and spirit puppet grass puppet in the life bag. He also put the mist hidden array into the storage bag. His eyes were firm. He looked up to the sky. His sight seemed to pass through thousands of mountains and rivers. Chapter 99. Show you my big baby. Thousands of feet in the sky. Xuan closed the book Common Spiritual Plants and Their Treatment Methods that he got from the girl in red, stretched his waist, and looked out the window. Thick clouds were rolling outside the window, and thick arcs were faintly flashing in the distance. The Xuan ship was extremely stable during the flight, and there was no sense of turbulence. Although the ding classroom was the lowest level, Xuan felt that the experience was pretty good. At least there was an independent free space, and he could also see the high altitude scenery outside the ship. It has been more than half a month since he boarded the ship. During this time, he basically stayed in the room reading books and practicing. He was very uncomfortable not to cultivate spiritual plants for such a long time, and his bones were rusty. Of course, the most important point is that, after practicing for half a month, his cultivation has not improved at all, but by cultivating spiritual plants, he can intuitively feel the growth of the spiritual plants, and the white light balls are bred little by little as the spiritual plants grow. Sure enough, with my talent, I don't need to dream of achieving much in cultivation. He once again realized his mediocrity in cultivation. If he continued to cultivate like this in the Xuan ship, he didn't know when he would be able to break through to the 9th level of key training. The Xuan ship did not arrive at Jianmen Town directly from Linyang Market. It had several stops in the middle to exchange resources between the various branches, and there were also cultivators who got off the ship halfway, and the Xuan ship itself was replenished and maintained. During the period, there was no danger. There were only 2 times when monster birds attacked the Xuan ship. They didn't even break through the protective aura shield outside the ship, and were killed by the Wanbao building cultivators on the ship. In half an hour, the Xuan ship will arrive at Jianmen Town. Please prepare for the cultivators heading to Jianmen Town, and don't miss the precious magic tools. Just as Xuan's mind was floating, a gentle voice sounded in his ears. What virtue do I have to let a foundation building cultivator broadcast my itinerary? I think 200 spirit stones are not too much. Xuan smiled secretly, his eyes fixed on the window. Half an hour later, the Xuan ship landed in a wide square. Xuan jumped lightly onto the ground of the square, and immediately felt a sense of reality coming from his feet. In front of him was a bustling market town. Outside the town stood a wide stone sword that was 100 feet high. There were marks of varying sizes and depths on the sword. The monks passing by were attracted by the stone sword involuntarily. There were even many sword cultivators who stayed under the huge stone sword, pointing their hands as swords, constantly gesturing, as if thinking about something. Xuan came to the center of the town, and found that the cultivation, bearing, and age of the monks in the town were all superior to those in the market. He walked around and learned from inquiries that it would take some time before the Xianjian sect would accept disciples, so he found an inn and booked a room at the price of 2 spirit stones per day. While waiting, he took the time to look at the many spiritual plants and beasts in the Sheng bag and let the stepping cloud lynx out to move around. The vitality of the spiritual plants and beasts was still good, so Xuan was relieved. It's really weird. In such a big market, I can't find an unknown spiritual seed. Xuan cursed and returned to the room. Nearly 20 days have passed since he came to Jianmen Town. During this time, in addition to practicing and reading, he would go to the town market from time to time in his spare time. Jianmen Town has the support of the nearby Xianjian sect, and its heritage is very deep. Xuan saw a lot of spiritual seeds in the market, mainly 1st grade and 2nd grade, and even occasionally saw 3rd grade spiritual seeds on the stalls. You know, this is basically impossible to happen in Linyang Market. 3rd grade spiritual seeds will only appear in well-known stores such as Wanbao Building, and the price is extremely expensive, which makes people stay away. But the bad thing is that the heritage is too deep. Every time Xuan finds a spiritual seed that he doesn't know, he will ask the stall owner, trying to find an unknown spiritual seed and pick up a leek like the sword grass and dark marrow Ganoderma before. As a result, every stall owner can introduce the types grades and other detailed information of the spiritual seeds very well, which makes his idea of picking up leaks die in the womb. Lu Xuan had not considered buying normal spirit seeds for the time being. He had not even started to join the Xianjian sect, and he had no spiritual fields. In addition, Lu Xuan guessed that after he officially joined the sect, he might get better spirit seeds at a more favorable price, so he was not in a hurry. "Brother Lu, are you back from the market?" Not long after he entered the house, a boy of about his age walked in. The boy had a delicate appearance, narrow eyes, and narrowed into two slits when he smiled. He lived next door to Lu Xuan, and was more outgoing. He also wanted to join the Xianjian sect. The two were of similar age, cultivation, and goals, so they gradually became familiar with each other. After arriving at Jianmen town, Lu Xuan revealed his 8th level of key training. One reason was that he was worried that he would not be able to hide it in front of the Xianjian sect's cultivators when testing his cultivation, and the other was to slightly increase his bargaining chips. The boy's name was Bailey Jianqing. During the chat, Lu Xuan learned that his grandfather had practiced in the Xianjian sect, but failed to successfully be promoted to an inner disciple. Under his influence, he admired and yearned for the Xianjian sect, so he came from afar, wanting to continue the unfinished route of his grandfather. In a few days, the Xianjian sect will begin to select outer disciples. With our cultivation, becoming outer disciples is a sure thing. Bailey Jianqing sat on the chair, swinging his legs, and shaking his head. "I have been looking forward to this day for a long time. I heard that there is a spiritual plant called sword grass in the Xianjian sect. It is a natural sword weapon, and is extremely rare for sword cultivators. My grandfather has one in his hand. He treats it as a treasure. He only played with it a few times when I was a child, and I never saw it again after I grew up. If I can get a sword grass when I enter the sect, then my life will be perfect." Bailey Jianqing is a sword cultivator who is proficient in swordsmanship and is extremely eager for the mysterious sword grass in the Xianjian sect. Seeing him like this, Lu Xuan couldn't help but have a young heart. He smiled mysteriously at him and hooked his finger. "Come here, let me show you my treasure." After saying that, he took out a black and hard 2nd grade sword grass from the storage bag on his waist and danced with it in his hand. "Wow. Sword grass. Such good quality." Bailey Jianqing rushed over quickly and grabbed the dark black sword grass. It is indeed a natural sword weapon. The sword intent is natural, without any flaws. Bailey Jianqing gently wiped the blade of the sword grass, as if he had met his dream lover after decades of hunger and thirst, with a fanatical look in his eyes. "Brother Lu, Brother Xuan, how about giving me the sword grass at a high price? Or what treasure do you want? You can ask for anything below the 3rd grade. Although my Bailey family is nothing in Jianmen town, it is still well known locally." Lu Xuan pulled the sword grass out of Bailey Jianqing's hand, who was reluctant to let it go, and looked at him, as if he was about to pull out a thread and put it into the storage bag. "I have a few questions to ask you. If your answers satisfy me, I may be able to get you a high quality sword grass after you join our sect," Lu Xuan said with a smile. Chapter 100, Zhao Xian crossing Dao sword formation guards the mountain. "Brother Lu, if you ask, I promise to tell you everything I know." Bailey Jianqing nodded heavily. "Your grandfather practiced in Xianjian sect for many years. I believe you know a lot about the situation in the sect. I want to ask, after joining the sect, can the disciples of the sect have a spiritual field and cultivate spiritual plants freely?" "Of course, after entering, the sect will send foundation building and even giant and cultivators to teach and explain the practice methods, teach the practice of alchemy, formations, and other practice skills, and occasionally there will be sect tasks that must be completed. Apart from these, outer disciples can arrange their time freely. There will be no problems, as long as they do not violate the sect rules. As for the spiritual field, Xianjian sect covers an area of more than 1,000 miles, with countless strange peaks. Disciples can open caves in the specified area by themselves, and even after being promoted to inner disciples, they can have a spiritual vein on their own. Lu Xuan nodded to show that he understood. "Brother Lu, you ask so many questions, can't it be?" Bailey Jianqing looked like he wanted to ask, but didn't dare to. "That's right. After entering the sect, the first thing I have to do is to cultivate spiritual plants and raise spiritual beasts. Brother Lou, you are only a little older than me. You can cultivate to the current level as a casual cultivator, which shows that you have a very good talent for cultivation. Why can't you think of planting spiritual plants? Everyone has their own aspirations. Just like you are obsessed with swordsmanship, I'm also fascinated by watching the spiritual plants and spiritual beasts I cultivate grow and mature little by little. Moreover, although spiritual plants are not as good as alchemy, weapons, formations and talismans, they are also one of the cultivation skills. If there were no spiritual plant masters, how could you get the sword grass you have been thinking about? Lu Xuan asked back. That's right, I absolutely support you, Brother Lou. When he heard that he could cultivate the sword grass he wanted, Bailey Giant King came over with a shy face, and his slender eyes completely narrowed into 2 slits. Lu Xuan took this opportunity to consolidate his personality of focusing on cultivating spiritual plants. A few days later, under the huge stone sword, there was a wide square. At one end of the square, there were 2 white jade square tables. 2 Xianjian sect monks in green shirts sat in front of the tables, and there were 7 or 8 outer disciples around to maintain order. Lu Xuan and Bailey Giant King arrived at the square early. There were only a few people in front of one square table. They were all wearing robes, full of spiritual energy and clear eyes. There was a long queue in front of another square table. Lu Xuan estimated that there were no less than 100 people. He stood behind the queue honestly. When he turned around, he saw Bailey Giant King had switched to the smaller queue at some point. You can't just move in line like this. Lu Xuan was about to call him over when he saw Bailey Giant King take out a green token and wave it at him with a wink. King Iron Order? With that token, is it equivalent to going through the VIP channel? Lu Xuan recognized the token in Bailey Giant King's hand at a glance. He had one on him. He looked at the queue that was still in a long queue and silently came behind Bailey Giant King. In his surprised eyes, he took out the King Iron Order from his storage bag. Brother Lou, you are a very secretive person. You got a King Iron Order as a casual cultivator. Lu Xuan smiled. I got it by chance. The Xianjian sect cultivators in front of the 2 white jade square tables needed to conduct a preliminary screening of the many cultivators present, testing their bone age, cultivation, and body aura. Except for a few specially recruited low-level and mid-level key training cultivators, those cultivators who were over 30 years old, whose cultivation was not up to the high level of key training, or whose origins were not right would be eliminated in the first round. At first, Lu Xuan was worried that he would not be able to pass the test smoothly with his talent. Later, he asked Bailey Giant King and learned that talent was only a relatively important aspect, and what was more important was the cultivator's own cultivation. After all, if a cultivator wants to continue to improve during the cultivation, talent, good fortune, character, wealth, friends, law, and land are all indispensable. Being able to cultivate to the high level of key training before the age of 30 at least means that he has a unique advantage in one or several aspects. With the guarantee of the King Iron Order, the first round of screening was just a formality. Soon, an outer disciple of the Xianjian sect walked up to several people. Hello, future junior brothers and sisters. I will lead you to the Xianjian sect first. After saying that, he patted the storage bag on his waist, and a shuttle-shaped flying boat appeared on the ground. The flying boat was shining with spiritual light, and many runes were engraved on it. It was a 2nd-grade flying magic weapon. Lu Xuan clasped his fists and saluted, and followed everyone to board the flying boat. The flying boat was very fast, soaring in the sky, and the continuous mountains below turned into afterimages, constantly sweeping back. Along the way, the young monks of the Xianjian sect with a handsome appearance and temperament were very enthusiastic. When controlling the flying boat, they kept finding topics to chat with everyone on the flying boat. There was no contempt for Lu Xuan, who was dressed in ordinary clothes. He knew in his heart that those who could get the King Iron Order must either be of extraordinary origin or have unique talents and be favored. Although he joined the Xianjian sect in advance, he would soon be surpassed by everyone present. After a while, the flying boat came to a magic array that covered the sky and the sun. The magic array stretched for an unknown number of miles. There were stars twinkling in the sky. From time to time, meteors fell and landed on the surface of the array, stirring up sword intents like swimming fish. Xuan looked carefully and saw the endless sword intent in the stars. This is the Xuan star fighting sword array, the Xianji insect's protective array, and also a notorious killing array in the cultivation world. It is famous for killing. Even a Yuan in great power may die in it after falling into the sword array. The Xianji insect's outer sect cultivator with a dignified temperament introduced it to the few people with a proud look. After the flying boat landed, he brought Xuan and the others to a huge stone turtle. The stone turtle was huge, with a mottled shell. It had been lying outside the sword array for who knows how many years, motionless. The Xianji insect cultivator flicked his finger, and a deep purple pill flew into the stone turtle's mouth. The stone turtle raised its head with difficulty and slowly, and an obscure spiritual power flashed. Xuan felt that his whole body was visible in front of the stone turtle. This is the mountain guarding spiritual beast, the mountain guarding turtle. It is so old that it is impossible to study it. It can understand human language and distinguish between evil spirits. In the future, if you enter and exit the mountain gate, you can feed it a special animal pill to make it easy. Feeding a spiritual beast to protect the sect? Xuan felt a little excited just thinking about it. Seeing the old stone turtle nod gently, the Xianji insect cultivator came to the spiritual energy wall and took out a black nameplate. The spiritual energy flashed, and a small door that could accommodate 2 people appeared in the spiritual energy wall in front of him. Xuan followed behind him and entered the sword formation. As soon as he entered, he felt a strong and pure spiritual power rushing towards him, which instantly activated the spiritual power in his body. It was many times stronger than the small courtyard in the market. He even had an illusion that in this spiritual environment, his cultivation could also progress rapidly. It is worthy of being a sect. Under this abundant and pure spiritual energy, the spiritual plants should grow faster and are more likely to be of high quality, right? Xuan thought secretly. In the sect, there are mountains, rivers and lakes, with auras, clouds, and mist, and a variety of weather. Various strange animals and birds shuttle freely, showing the style of the sect. The last day of double bonus, 3 updates. I'm asking for a monthly ticket. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.